Chapter 970. Emperor of Heaven, you know what I'm planning. I'm going to unify the human world, take over the heavenly court, collect the sacrifices, and then subdue you and Gu Chensha. I'm going to build a civilization that surpasses Gu Chensha's dragonless heart sutra. Hong Ling Sha wasn't afraid of Emperor of Heaven at all. Her cultivation was becoming more and more condensed and powerful. She had even refined so many people who had obtained variant origin energy into protectors within the divine light. Hong Ling Sha, you're thinking too much. The celestial Dharch smiled. You're quite powerful now, but you're still far from being able to subdue me and Gu Chensha. Emperor of Heaven, you're here to suppress me? Hong Ling Sha knew that Emperor of Heaven didn't come with good intentions. After all, the human world belonged to Emperor of Heaven, and she'd be taking over his property. No, I'm here to work with you. If you want to advance quickly, you'll have to work with me. You're building a kingdom and gathering faith, but it's just a small thing. You'll be suppressed by me. If we work together, I can even give you half of the sacrifices. How about it? Emperor of Heaven said. Half of the sacrifices? Hong Ling Sha was shocked. Emperor of Heaven, you're really generous. Aren't you afraid I'll take over? I know I have the temperament of a new Heaven Empress, but the position of Heaven Empress is too small for me. If you want to recruit me, I can't be Heaven Empress. Then what do you want to be? Emperor of Heaven asked patiently. It's simple. I want to be the Taoist ancestor on equal footing with you. The so-called Tao of Heaven is divided into Heaven and Tao. The heavens were the celestial emperor, and the Tao was the Tao ancestor. Who the hell is the Heaven Empress? You better choose another one. In the future, we will divide the heaven and earth equally. You will be in charge of the heaven and I will be in charge of the earth. In this way, we will be in charge of the yin and yang. There will be no more doubts. You want to be the Taoist ancestor? There is no such position in the heavenly court. The Emperor of Heaven frowned. The heavenly court doesn't have the position of heavenly king of reform, but didn't the Dharma saints still do it? I know you want to obtain all authority, but right now, you have no control over the situation at all. If my guess is correct, you should be more thorough. Something big happened in the heavenly court. Gu Daoxian attacked your heavenly court, but Gu Chensha appeared and captured Gu Daoxian right in front of your eyes. So you feel great danger and want to quickly quell the chaos in the human world, so you came to recruit me. Is that right? Hong Ling Sha seemed to be very perceptive. The division of power is now clear. The everlasting realm is under Gu Chensha's system, and is the strongest. The otherworld is actually attached to Gu Chensha. The name Otherworld was also given by Gu Chensha, so I haven't tried to subdue it. There are two other powers. One belongs to me, and the other belongs to you. If we work together, we can fight against Gu Chensha. Hong Ling Sha said, Your idea is very good and I'm willing to agree. The Grand Plume Sand said, Your idea is very good and I am willing to agree. The only question now is whether or not you can satisfy my request. I want to be a Tao ancestor, and my status is transcendent. Furthermore, these subordinates of mine belong to the system of the Tao ancestor, and not the system of the heavenly court. They can listen to your orders, but you cannot banish them into the cycle of reincarnation, nor can you punish them. You want to create a second heavenly court? That's going to be a bit difficult, and it might even ruin our order. There was no way the Emperor of Heaven would agree to something like that. If he did, not only would he fail to achieve his goal of unifying the heavenly court, but he would also destroy the order and laws of the heavenly court. Fighting would lead to endless trouble. If you can't even agree to that, then forget it. Hong Ling Sha laughed coldly. Don't tell me you want me to be the Empress of Heaven? If you make that request, then there's no need for us to talk. I'll go find Gu Chensha and kill you. I can agree to be the Taoist ancestor, but there's one thing I can't agree to. Other than you, All of your subordinates will belong to the heavenly court system. I control their lives and death. You're the only one I can't control. You can be the Taoist ancestor, and we'll share all of the heavenly court's sacrifices. I can agree to that. The celestial Dharch bargained. Grand Plume Sand, think about it. If you establish a Tao palace, and even your subordinates don't listen to me, then the hearts of the people will be different. The number of sacrifices we receive will be very few, and it will be very difficult to achieve immortality. Also, I can tell you that all of the people who have joined you are actually being manipulated by some terrifying entity behind the scenes. When the time comes, it will definitely backfire on you, and you'll die a horrible death. Furthermore, I just learned some secrets from Gu Dao Immortal. I can help you get rid of those problems. In fact, we can even research the secrets of Deathless together. Fine. I can agree to that. Hearing this, the Hongling Sha thought about it for a long time, then nodded. You do have some experience in dealing with Gu Dao Immortal. In that case, give me your experience and we can work together. As you wish. The Emperor of Heaven laughed loudly. Let's work together happily. Actually, there's one thing you're wrong about. Gu Dao Immortal was captured by Gu Chensha, and I did it on purpose. Even if I suppressed Gu Dao Immortal, it would be useless. I couldn't refine him, and in fact, trapping him would take up a lot of my energy. So I let Gu Chensha get it. After Gu Chensha gets it, he'll have to use his own cultivation base to refine Gu Dao Immortal. That way, he'll have to fight that terrifying entity's will. His power won't grow, but will actually weaken. We can take advantage of this opportunity to strengthen ourselves and push our power to the pinnacle. It would be best if Gu Chensha and that terrifying entities will fought to the death. We can even be the fishermen who benefit from it. You're right about that, the Hongling Sha nodded. Indeed, if that terrifying entity has a will, it won't be easy to destroy. While Gu Chensha is tied down, we can quickly develop. In that case, let's sign the contract and not go back on our words. The Emperor of Heaven stretched out his hand. The Hongling Sha also stretched out his hand. Their hands clasped together. Rumble! The entire human realm, the entire heavenly court, and many other worlds suddenly experienced an unknown change. Many cultivation experts felt the human realm expand once again, as if they had obtained some kind of fate. Especially the heavenly court, which shone brightly, and fate descended like a waterfall. All of the officials in the heavenly court felt as if they had been released from some kind of shackle, and the bottleneck that they had been unable to break through after so much cultivation was suddenly broken through. This was especially so for the Dharma Saint. In that instant, he felt his cultivation rising steadily, as if fate had released some kind of ability that could allow him to jump out of everything. Immortal! In the heavenly court, halos of light appeared above the Dharma Saint's head. These halos continuously crushed, refined, and refined the sacrificial power. In the end, a trace of immortality was born, and the quality of this immortality was extremely high. Level 6, Eternal Immortality. With the Dharma Saint's realm, he could instantly refine the level 6 immortality from the sacrificial power. Eternal Immortality. In the past, this was only one level lower than the Emperor of Heaven. I actually increased a few levels in a row. Why? Is my great fortune coming? The Dharma Saint felt that his strength had increased too much, and it was a little unbelievable. The Emperor of Heaven was previously at the level 7 true immortality realm. This realm could suppress everything, and now that the Dharma Saint had reached the level 6 eternal immortality realm, he was most likely the number one person in the heavenly court after the Emperor of Heaven. The heavenly court's fate has increased greatly. When Gu Chensha left the human world, he felt a huge tremor. He looked over and saw the heavenly court shining with light, illuminating the boundless space. He couldn't help but nod. Looks like the heavenly court has quelled the unrest in the human world. The Emperor of Heaven has finally convinced the Hongling Sand to join forces. This is within my expectations, and it won't affect me much. After all, the Hongling Sand wasn't subdued by the Emperor of Heaven. Instead, they joined forces, and the Hongling Sand is on an equal footing with the Emperor of Heaven. The Hongling Sand's ambition is even greater than that of the Emperor of Heaven. The two of them are scheming against each other, causing the heavenly court to be impure, and the heavenly Tao to be split in two. This is also my chance. The Emperor of Heaven wants me to go against the terrifying thing in Gu Daoxian's body, to restrict my strength and buy time for me. I want the terrifying thing to take advantage of while the Emperor of Heaven and the Hongling Sand are scheming against each other. When that happens, I'll be able to capture them both in one fell swoop. Let me go, let me go. Gu Chensha, you beast, you dare to capture me? You can't destroy me at all, and you have to waste your strength to suppress me. After capturing me, your strength not only didn't increase, it actually decreased. Why bother? Gu Daoxian roared in Gu Chencha's palm. I didn't capture you to refine you. With a whooshing sound, Gu Chensha left the mortal world, and arrived in the eternal world. I've never refined anyone. Given my current cultivation base, I don't even care about mutated essences. I'm already close to the 9th level of the Deathless Realm, the Peerless Deathless Realm. However, I'm still a bit short of maturity. I'm just trying to influence you, to change you. You have an enormous amount of mutated essences, and now you're being invaded by the terrifying thing's will. You're not even clear-headed, and you're constantly being infected by that terrifying will. If you want to get rid of it and gain complete freedom, you have to use a series of methods. Gu Chensha, you actually want to change my mind? You're really too vicious. Killing someone is just a matter of nodding your head to the ground. You're even more vicious than killing me. Gu Daoxian roared, feeling very uneasy. Dragonless Tao. Gu Chensha didn't say anything else to Gu Daoxian. He used his dragonless heart technique, and immediately, the vast river of civilization descended. The river of civilization had no beginning and no end. Within it, each wave was a resplendent civilization. Within it, there were peddlers and pawns, emperors and generals, and even all sorts of countries and principles. The river of civilization contained hundreds of trillions of civilizations, and it surged forward, searching for the end of civilization. The river flowed forward, and civilizations were constantly being born. Gradually, it was possible to see what the end of civilization was. Chapter 971. The Dragonless Mental Cultivation Technique wrapped Gu Daoxian up within. Gu Daoxian felt as if his cultivation base and will were being compressed, as if they were about to be sealed. Gu Chensha, what are you trying to do? Could it be that you want to seal my true spirit, so that I can be reincarnated, so that I can obtain new memories, and develop new feelings and thoughts? When I wake up one day, my new thoughts will clash with my old thoughts, and they will dissolve each other. Then, step by step, my spirit will be subdued? Gu Daoxian felt more and more terrified. Not bad. You seem to understand this very well. Gu Chensha nodded in praise. Your spirit has already been invaded by a terrifying will. Even if I try to enlighten you, it will be of no use. Therefore, you can only defeat yourself. I will seal your current thoughts and will, and you will be reincarnated. You will experience all sorts of trials and tribulations, and you will understand the benefits of my dragonless mental cultivation technique. Naturally, you will be able to resist that terrifying will. That will be your new personality. If the first time doesn't work, then you will be reincarnated a second time, a third time, 1,000 times. Every time a new personality is born, it will fight against that terrifying will, and one day, it will be able to penetrate through it. It will be able to walk the dragonless Tao and reach the realm of freedom. I'm saving you, not killing you. You have to know this. I don't kill people, I only save people. Of course, sometimes in your eyes, saving people is killing people. That's just because you can't understand it. Gu Chunsha, don't even think about using such methods to strengthen my will. Gu Daoxian's heart was filled with terror. Layers of black light shone out from his body, blocking Gu Chencha's suppression and sealing. Unfortunately, Gu Chunsha wasn't using his doppelganger, but his main body. The strength of Gu Chencha's original self far surpassed the imagination of the Emperor of Heaven and Gu Daoxian. He activated the dragonless mental technique, and gradually suppressed Gu Daoxian into a black dot the size of a sesame seed. This black dot contained the fortune of yin and yang, the impermanence of life and death, the rotation of the great Tao, the sun, the moon, the cosmos, and almost everything that should be there. Some of the subtleties were not inferior to Gu Chencha's dragonless mental technique. This terrifying will is quite powerful. Fortunately, it hasn't completely condensed into a physical form. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a match for it. However, I've more or less obtained some information. Once it's completely born, I'll have some means to resist it. At least I won't be completely defeated. Gu Chunsha looked at this sesame-sized black dot that was struggling non-stop. He circulated his dragonless heart sutra and saw something he wanted from it. It was the 9th level of the Undying Realm, the Undying Realm. Right now, Gu Chunsha was also at the 8th level of the Undying Realm, the Undying Realm. However, compared to the Emperor of Heaven, it was much more profound. He had already taken half a step into the Undying Realm, and was only one step away from completely entering this realm. But because of this, his horizons were greatly broadened. He knew that the 9th level of the Undying Realm was probably not the limit. The true realm was still to come. There was still a 10th level of the Undying Realm. However, as for how to name the 10th level of the Undying Realm, even Gu Chunsha himself could not figure it out, because no name would be suitable for this thing. There were no words that could describe this realm. Even the soul could not comprehend the greatness of this realm. No beautiful words or pictures could describe even a billionth of this realm. This was the realm after the Undying Realm. Gu Chunsha, how dare you seal me? Suddenly, an extremely sharp voice and a powerful aura exploded from the black. This voice was not Gu Daoxian's, but someone else's. This voice was naturally that terrifying thing's will. You've finally appeared. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Gu Chunsha continued to seal it. But you haven't been able to completely emerge. Right now, you don't even have a physical body. You're just a strand of will. You can only rely on your instincts to invade the bodies of some powerful beings and use them to do certain things. Gu Chunsha, even if you destroy this strand of will of mine, many more of my will come out. But this strand of will of mine isn't something you can destroy. The terrifying will's voice became even sharper. If you let go of this strand of will of mine, I can let you enjoy the throne in the future. But if you insist on going about things the wrong way, when I completely emerge, you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Your fate will be truly miserable, and you will die without a burial. Looks like you haven't learned anything about the human world. You're just so threatening. You're really like a child. Gu Chunsha laughed. You're still some time away from completely emerging. I just need to study this strand of will of yours, and I'll be able to comprehend the fundamental mysteries. When that time comes, as soon as you emerge, I'll seal you so that you can't cause trouble. Explode. This terrifying will didn't seem to want to say anything more to Gu Chunsha. It let out a sound of destruction, as if it was going to explode and completely destroy this strand of will. It didn't want to let Gu Chunsha continue to study it. How could it be so easy? Gu Chunsha was very confident at this moment. His dragonless heart sutra showed its might again. Wave after wave of waves surged out, completely suppressing this explosion. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Within the eternal world, the dragonless chi trembled. A ray of light shot into the sky, then quickly expanded. In an instant, it disrupted Gu Chensha's Dragonless Heart Sutra's suppression. Ha 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 ha! The terrifying will exploded again. Gu Chensha, there's a flaw in your Dragonless Heart Sutra. This is my chance. I can take over your body. What a guy! Faced with this change, Gu Chensha didn't feel moved or evolved at all. It was as if he had sensed it long ago. His body disappeared. Undying change. The Dragonless Heart Sutra's aura instantly became transparent. This terrifying will instantly missed its target. However, the Dragonless Heart Sutra once again appeared in reality, enveloping him in layers and causing this terrifying will to be unable to cause trouble. In the end, Gu Daoxian and this terrifying will once again turned into a sesame-sized black dot. Whoosh! Just as Gu Chensha completely suppressed Gu Daoxian and this terrifying will, another person appeared in front of him. It was the fourth, Gu Huasha. The fourth, did you just comprehend the core of the Dragonless Heart Sutra and finally obtain great freedom in your heart, causing the Dragonless Qi in the eternal world to fluctuate and change? Gu Chensha looked at the fourth, Gu Huasha, his expression calm. That's right. The fourth, Gu Huasha, said, I've finally comprehended the Dragonless Heart Sutra to perfection. Chensha, you really are an incomparable talent. Only today did I feel the profundities of the Dragonless Heart Sutra. If my guess is correct, your current level and strength are completely comparable to Father at his peak, right? More or less. At his peak, Father was at the 8th level of Undying, the peak of Undying. The Heavenly Tao was the same, so Father chose to fuse with the Heavenly Tao in an attempt to comprehend the 9th level of Undying. However, from the looks of it now, things have changed. Gu Chensha said, I did comprehend the Undying, but it gave birth to something terrifying that can't be destroyed. That's normal. Every peck and every drink is predetermined. The birth of the Supreme Undying is the result of natural lux jealousy, which is why a tribulation will be born. Only after this tribulation is over will it truly evolve into the Supreme Undying. Number 4 Gu Huasha said. Haha, the fourth, you're wrong. What envy of good fortune. Right now, our strength is already above the good fortune of heaven and earth. Gu Chensha said, of course, it's not impossible to destroy this terrifying thing. Now that you've cultivated the Dragonless Heart Sutra, your spirit has obtained great freedom, great freedom. You can lend me a hand in spreading the Dragonless Heart Sutra to the human world. The situation in the human world can't be underestimated. That Hongling Sand has already joined hands with the Emperor of Heaven. In the long run, our eternal world will be at a disadvantage. Even if you didn't say this, I would still go to the human world. The fourth brother, Gu Huasha, said, although the human world has stabilized and its fate energy has increased, the celestial heavens already has 2 masters. One of them, Hongling Sha, is actually not the Empress but the Tao ancestor. This is different from the celestial emperor. He will definitely plot in the dark, and finally subdue the Emperor of Heaven. And the Emperor of Heaven will also not tolerate such a thing happening. The battle between the two will be our best opportunity. Alright, the fourth, you go to the human world and sow discord between the two. Gu Chensha nodded. It just so happens that I've cultivated the Dragonless Heart Sutra, and I'm no longer afraid of the invasion of the human world. The fourth, Gu Huasha, said, and his body disappeared. He left the eternal world and entered the human world. Gu Chensha looked at the departing back of the fourth, Gu Huasha, and a contemplative look appeared on his face. At this time, Lu Baiwei quietly appeared behind Gu Chensha and said, the fourth comprehended the core secret of the Dragonless Heart Sutra, but is he the true body of the Emperor of Heaven? After I successfully cultivated the Dragonless Heart Sutra, I was constantly comprehending and calculating. I felt that out of all the people, the fourth is the most suspicious. The fourth is called Gu Huasha, and he is one of the new people conferred by the Emperor of Heaven. The Lord of the Sun and Moon, Hua Mingsha, the Lord of the Punishment, Hua Misha, and the Lord of the Demon World, Hua Yao Sha. From this, it can be seen that the fourth is definitely the true body of the Emperor of Heaven. He really hid very deeply. These are all guesses. Did the fourth show any clues? Gu Chensha didn't care, as if everything was under his control. The fourth's personality doesn't have any loopholes, but when he comprehended the Dragonless Heart Sutra, it almost caused a loophole in your suppression of the ancient Tao Immortal and that terrifying will. I'm afraid that wasn't a coincidence, said Lu Baiwe. Chapter 972. Is it confirmed that the fourth is the true body of the Emperor of Heaven? 8 or 9 out of 10. Lu Baiwe was still a little uneasy. The Emperor of Heaven is cunning and not a good person. If we are wrong, and the Emperor of Heaven is someone else, and we wrongly accuse the fourth, I'm afraid there will be chaos, and all our previous efforts will go to waste? Actually, whether the fourth is the true body of the Emperor of Heaven, I'm not 100% sure. I'm afraid this is a scheme of the Emperor of Heaven. Maybe the Emperor of Heaven deliberately made us wrongly accuse the fourth, and he hid in the dark to stir up trouble? Otherwise, the matter of him naming the Sun-Moon Lord Hua Mingsha is too obvious, giving us daydreams, using fate to interfere with our judgment, causing us to make a mistake in the end. If we make a mistake in this matter, I'm afraid we'll suffer the heaviest blow, and even the dragonless cultivation method will be destroyed. You're right about this matter. The dragonless cultivation method is the truth, but as the creator of the dragonless cultivation method, he was deceived by someone and harmed his own brother. After this matter, my fate and the eternal world will suffer a huge blow, and it might even be unable to recover. Of course, the current me will not be affected by fate. Even if my fate ends, there will not be any collapse. Gu Chensha said, but whether the fourth is the true body of the Emperor of Heaven or not isn't very important to us. Even if the fourth is, do we have to suppress and subdue him? It's definitely to reform him, to change his way of thinking. Isn't he the same? With this thought in mind, we will be successful in every endeavor and will not be doubted by anything. We don't need to have two choices. We only need to follow one path, and we will be able to overcome all obstacles and resolve everything. You're right. Even if the fourth is up to no good, even if he's hiding his true intentions, he's still our brother, and one of the founders of our Yonko Imperial Court. Right now, our Yonko has completely stabilized, and there are no more loopholes. The people's hearts are also gradually stabilizing, and those who have no confidence in the Dragonless Mantra have already left, leaving behind only those who are extremely determined. Lu Baiwe said, actually, I'm still worried about something else, and that's the terrifying wills. Wills have entered our eternal world, and there aren't many experts in the eternal world that can compare to ancient Tao immortals. It's impossible to resist the invasion of this terrifying will. You've hit the nail on the head. Gu Chensha nodded. The Emperor of Heaven isn't the enemy, because his cultivation is completely under my control. This terrifying will is our greatest enemy. But you don't have to worry, you've cultivated the core of the Dragonless Mantra, and your heart has obtained great freedom. That terrifying will can't invade you. This is the same as the Hongling Sand. The Hongling Sand has cultivated the Dragonless Mantra, and the terrifying will can't invade you. But it's hard to say for the others. Right now, our eternal world's crystal barrier is actually unable to resist invasions. How many wills does he have in total? Lu Baiwe said, it has invaded many people who have been reincarnated from the source of variation, and it seems like there's more than one. What I'm afraid of is that this terrifying will is endless, and will eventually invade everyone in our eternal world. That would be troublesome. That's indeed a possibility, Gu Chensha said, but right now the Heavenly Tao and Father Emperor are still entangled, and haven't completely collapsed. This will doesn't appear many times, and if it's scattered, it will instead weaken its power. You have to be careful lest the higher-ups of our eternal world are infiltrated. Being careful isn't a good thing. Besides, even if I cultivate the dragonless mantra and can resist the invasion, I can't prevent others from being invaded. Lu Baiwe frowned. This matter is very troublesome for now, but I have a way. I've comprehended some secrets from this Gu Daoxian's body, and it just so happens that I can create a trap. As long as his will dares to enter the eternal world, I can completely imprison it, and he won't be able to return. My eternal world isn't like the human world, Gu Chunsha said, but right now I have to make a trip to the human world and send this Gu Daoxian's will to reincarnate. Reincarnate in the human world? Lu Baiwe said doubtfully. Why don't we directly let Gu Daoxian reincarnate in the eternal world? That way, it'll be easier to nurture him. If he goes to the human world, there will be a series of irreversible changes. It's not that it's bad to be in the eternal world, but it will imprison his thoughts. And the mortal world is boundless, and the desires of the human world are the best way to temper a person. Gu Chunsha said, besides, I'm throwing out a bait, and let many people take the bait. And before the collapse of the heavenly Tao and Father Emperor, the human world was still the absolute main character among the many worlds. Don't look at how the Emperor of Heaven has strengthened his supervision, causing the human world to practically be imprisoned to the extreme, but the hearts of people yearning for freedom will never be extinguished. As long as there are living beings, there will be the existence of freedom, and even if there are no living beings, there will still be the existence of freedom. In this way, in the future, in the human world, there will be more and more experts, and they will be those heaven-defying experts. How is that possible? Lu Baiwe was a little doubtful, now that the Emperor of Heaven's supervision is so strict, not to mention that there are many gods watching over every household, even within everyone's body. There is also the supervision of the three corpses God, constantly reporting everyone's thoughts to the Emperor of Heaven. Every action of the world's living beings, every thought, will be known by the Emperor of Heaven. Under this kind of supervision, it is impossible for experts to appear. Any expert who has the slightest clue will be eliminated without a trace. There's no point in supervising them. Gu Chunsha said, look at our eternal world. Now we have gradually given up on supervision, but everyone is doing very well, studying the dragonless cultivation technique, and starting to be free. The real operation of the world depends on the people's hearts to change themselves, and not on people's supervision. The real order comes from the heart, and the Emperor of Heaven has walked to the extreme, so the stronger his supervision, the stronger the rebound of the people's hearts. My dragonless cultivation technique is like a spark. Sooner or later, it will ignite the entire human realm. So, you have already arranged for Gu Daoxian's path? Lu Baiwe guessed Gu Chencha's plan. Looks like your cultivation is becoming more and more profound. Gu Chunsha said a few words to Lu Baiwe. I will go to the human realm to arrange everything, and pay attention to the fourth's movements. If my guess is correct, that terrifying will gather all its power and invade the fourth. This is another trap. As they spoke, Gu Chunsha once again entered the human realm. This time, he did not use an incarnation, but his real body, which meant that he had completely left the eternal world, and the eternal world did not have his power to protect it. This was an empty city stratagem, or rather, a stratagem to lure the enemy into a trap. He could come and go freely in the celestial court with an incarnation, and now his real body had directly moved to the human realm. Even if he used his power, it would not be impossible to refine the entire human realm. However, he was not prepared to do so. First, he wanted all living beings in the human realm to completely awaken themselves. If he forcefully refined the human realm, then he would be no different from the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven's attitude towards all living beings was that of a slave, while his attitude towards all living beings was that of a teacher. Secondly, the human realm was related to all the fate energy in the world, and if it was refined, it would probably cause the heavenly Tao and Gu Taxian to collapse prematurely. I have arrived in the human realm again, and the atmosphere seems good. Gu Chernsha once again stepped into the human realm, and he saw that there was order everywhere, and there were gods everywhere in the dark. The territory of the Han dynasty was getting bigger and bigger, and it was constantly expanding, starting to sweep across on a large scale. The master of the human realm, Zhang Ziran's cultivation, was getting stronger and stronger. He seemed to have comprehended some kind of principle. Zhang Ziran has opened up his own family, and he has his own harem and son. Gu Chernsha observed the master of the human realm's fate energy and noticed some secrets. He started to calculate and he had an idea. A smile appeared on his face. He came to the capital of the Han dynasty, Hong City. He saw a giant imperial city that stood tall, and it was no weaker than the Sky Palace. The current Han dynasty wasn't built in a classical style, but it was a combination of celestial path and prehistoric technology. However, the power of the celestial path was greatly weakened, and it was only limited to the Tao Realm 19 transformation, size manipulation. This was because once one cultivated techniques, one had to ascend to the celestial world, otherwise, one would be contaminated by the power of the human realm. Gu Chernsha walked casually into the palace. He didn't head to where Zhang Ziran was discussing matters, but to the harem. Zhang Ziran had his own thoughts as he knew that he couldn't be the master of the human realm forever. Once the human realm stabilized, the Emperor of Heaven would attack him. This was because with his strength, he wouldn't be able to occupy the position for a long time. Moreover, he knew that the Emperor of Heaven would definitely send him into the cycle of reincarnation to find his mistake. It was common to kill the donkey when it was no longer of use. This was why he was making preparations. But now that the Emperor of Heaven was getting stronger and stronger, he couldn't do anything rashly. Gu Chernsha observed the fate energy of the imperial city and could see that Zhang Ziran was conflicted. So, Gu Chernsha landed in Zhang Ziran's harem because he discovered that one of the harem concubines seemed to be pregnant and was nurturing the fetus. He landed and saw many maids serving in the harem. That concubine was really spiritual and beautiful. She gave off a soul-grabbing aura, but she wasn't really strong. She was only at Tao Realm Transformation 9. The Celestial Emperor had ordered that even in the palace of Hong Chao, the ruler of the human world, no one was allowed to have more than 20 transformations of mana other than Zhang Ziran. Concubine E, the Emperor seems really unhappy recently. The expansion of the Great Hong Dynasty is going smoothly, but the Emperor is getting more and more worried. A palace maid reported the situation to the imperial concubine. I know about this. Also, keep a close eye on the Empress. I heard that the Crown Prince has cultivated to Tao Realm Transformation 19 Big Wish Realm. He wants to improve, but he isn't willing to ascend. Keep a close eye on this matter. He might learn some evil techniques, and when the time comes, the Heaven Dynasty won't accept him. The pregnant concubine E said. Of course, who is willing to ascend? Once they ascend, they will have no status in the celestial world. The maid said, the Emperor has 18 princes. If you give birth to this one, it will be the 19th prince. Chapter 973. Gu Chernsha was the 19th prince of Heavenly Talisman Great Emperor. Now that he had come to the human realm, the 19th prince of the human realm was about to be born. It was the time for him to find a reincarnation for Gu Daoxian and that terrifying will. There seemed to be some logic to this. Of course, Gu Chernsha had already seen through everything and knew where the crux of this was. He was too powerful. Every move he made affected everything in the world, including the creation and destruction of the universe. Therefore, the karma and fate of the unseen world and the laws of nature would give birth to some existences that would restrict and restrain him, or they would secretly influence his mind, causing him to do some unexpected things. Sometimes his own thoughts were not his own. Instead, they were actions that were lured by the unseen karma and fate. The birth of a thought and the death of a thought were largely out of one's control. No one knew what thoughts they would have in the next moment. These thoughts came suddenly and could not be controlled. However, Gu Chernsha had long since noticed all of this, because his dragonless heart technique had long since cut off all karma and fate. All of his thoughts came from his heart and came from himself. They would not be affected by any other factors. He had thrown the source of Gu Daoxian and that terrifying will into Yifei's body. In reality, he was beating her at her own game. He wanted to see what changes would be born from the unseen karma and fate. He gambled for a while. Because that terrifying thing was about to be born, it would definitely control karma and fate and carry out a large-scale plan. Perhaps many of the thoughts of all living beings in the world would be secretly affected by this thing. Aya. When Gu Chernsha threw the seal into Yifei's belly, she felt pain all over her body. Her Majesty is about to give birth. Quickly prepare. Many palace maids started to get busy. They were not very panicked. Firstly, the Hong dynasty's technology was very advanced and the celestial path was also very prosperous. It was very convenient for giving birth. As expected, after a while, Yifei gave birth to a baby. The baby was a boy. He looked very ordinary and there was nothing special about him. His Majesty has arrived. After the child was born, the current ruler of the human realm, Zhang Ziren, arrived. Greetings, Your Majesty. Many palace maids knelt down. There were also some brilliant imperial physicians. All of you can leave. Zhang Ziren's cultivation level was profound, so there was no need for him to consult any imperial physician. He was the only person in the human world who could maintain his cultivation level. My 19th prince has been born? Zhang Ziren carefully observed the baby, and layers of divine light shot out from the depths of his eyes. It was as if he was trying to see through some karma, but he couldn't see anything. This was a baby that inherited his bloodline, but he didn't see anything strange about it. Greetings, Your Majesty. Although concubine Yi had just given birth, she wasn't weak. That was because she was a Dao realm expert. These are my 19 princes. The Lord of Everworld, Gu Chernsha, is also ranked 19, and is the son of Grand Emperor Gu Taxian of Heavenly Talisman. Take care of yourself, Zhang Ziren said after thinking for a while. Thank you, Your Majesty. Concubine Yi said, but Gu Chernsha is the Lord of Everworld and is the biggest enemy of the Heaven Dynasty. We are under the jurisdiction of the Heaven Dynasty at all times, so even if I give birth to a son, after he reaches Dao Realm 19, he will have to ascend to the celestial world and become a normal celestial. I am really unwilling. Moreover, I heard rumors in the palace that the Emperor can't pass the throne to the next generation. This is what the Heaven Dynasty wants, but I don't know if it is true or not. Of course it is true. Zhang Ziren was expressionless. The human realm is the head of the world and it is more than 10,000 times larger than the collapsed heaven realm. At the same time, it is a juicy piece of meat. The Emperor Heaven definitely won't let our family control it for a long time. Once the situation stabilizes, it will weaken my power and strength. As for the family, they will attack us. Your Majesty, to put it bluntly, the Heaven Dynasty is killing the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness, so we have to find another way out. Concubine Yi seemed to be Zhang Ziren's confidant. I have my own plans for this, but it is easier said than done. Zhang Ziren frowned. Now that the Heaven Dynasty has stabilized, there is no chaos in the human realm, that Gu Dao Celestial has been suppressed, and many people with mutated source have been subdued by the Hongling Sand, which is the current Taoist ancestor. But there are 2 days in the sky, so it won't last long. The Emperor Heaven doesn't want to touch us now. Concubine said, actually, the Emperor Heaven wants to suppress the Hongling Sand, but there are many obstacles. The Hongling Sand should have been the Heaven Empress, the woman who became the Emperor Heaven. But instead, she became the Taoist ancestor, and is on equal footing with the Emperor Heaven. She even built the Tao Palace, which is above the Heaven Dynasty. Isn't that a rebellion? It's also because of this that I've managed to survive until today. Otherwise, the Celestial Dharch would have already caught hold of me and sent me into reincarnation, Zhang Ziren said. However, I'm not someone to be trifled with. The human realm is mine, and no one can take it away from me. If I hadn't offered up the inexhaustible flame to Gu Chensha, I wouldn't have been able to help the Emperor Heaven gain control of the human realm. Your Majesty, what do you think of our son? Concubine was about to say something, when she suddenly realized that her newborn son was sitting cross-legged, as if he were using some technique. A cloud appeared above his head, and within it, lightning flashed, black and white swirled, and all things in chaos, including the origin of the Tao and all living beings. What's this? Zhang Ziren's expression changed. Is this the evolution of the mutated source? Could it be that my son has obtained the mutated source? If that's the case, I'm afraid the Heaven Dynasty will really be jealous. Right now, the Heaven Dynasty is worried that they won't be able to get a handle on me. Your Majesty, this is our chance. Concubine was afraid that Zhang Ziren would have some designs on her son. Don't worry, he's also my son. Zhang Ziren smiled. The Emperor Heaven takes turns, and this year it's my family's turn. Besides, it's not like I don't have a chance. Right now, there are many officials in the Heaven Dynasty who have secretly sought refuge with the Taoist ancestor, Hong Ling Sha. I can also express my goodwill to Hong Ling Sha. And these days, I've been collecting sacrifices from the human realm, and I've kept a large portion for my own use. I've created some immortal substances. Gu Chensha looked at the conversation between Zhang Ziren and Concubine and knew that Zhang Ziren was an understanding person. Zhang Ziren betrayed him because he wanted the human realm, and he still wants it now. This person's Tao is the Tao of the human realm. Your immortal substances are of no use at all. Against the Emperor Heaven, they will collapse in an instant. At this moment, a voice resounded. Who? Zhang Ziren's divine will swept out, but he didn't find anyone. But in front of him, a body condensed. It's actually you. When Zhang Ziren saw the person who came, his expression became somewhat unnatural. Because the person who came was Eternal World's Gu Huasha. Regarding Gu Huasha, Zhang Ziren knew some secrets, because the Emperor Heaven once said that his true body was still in Eternal World. Moreover, he was an important figure in Eternal World. Many people would guess. Later on, the Emperor Heaven created a few important ministers, such as the Lord of the Sun and Moon Hua Mingsha, the Lord of the Demon Realm Hua Yaisha, and the Punisher Heavenly Monarch Hua Misha. Then, according to the word Hua, Zhang Ziren immediately thought of the key figure in Eternal World, Gu Huasha. This former fourth prince was very deep and his cultivation was unfathomable. Back then, there were even some old antiques who thought that the fourth prince was the most outstanding subordinate of the heavenly talisman Great Emperor Gu Taxian. However, later on, Gu Chensha appeared and completely overshadowed his brilliance. Seeing the appearance of Gu Huasha, Zhang Ziren felt very strange. He already thought that this Gu Huasha was Emperor Heaven's true body, but he didn't confirm it. Right now, he was Emperor Heaven's subordinate, but he was enemies with Gu Huasha. However, he was enemies with Guasha, so he didn't know what to do. Zhang Ziren, do you think that I'm Emperor Heaven's true body? Gu Huasha looked at Zhang Ziren's expression and knew what he was thinking. He couldn't help but reveal a mysterious smile. So, seeing me now is like seeing Emperor Heaven? If I tell you that I'm not Emperor Heaven's true body, and that Emperor Heaven's true body is someone else, what will you do? Naturally, I'll report to the heavenly court and capture you. You actually dare to appear in the human world? Although Zhang Ziren said this, he didn't do anything. He could feel that Gu Huasha's power was far above his. It's understandable for you to say that, but I came here today to help you. I heard what you said just now. Gu Huasha said. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Emperor Heaven can't let someone be the ruler of the human world for a long time. Apart from you, there won't be another ruler in the human world in the future. The human world should be divided into many countries. When these countries fight with each other, whoever is pious will receive blessings from the heavens, making the country strong. If a country isn't pious, it will weaken. With the pressure of competition, the power of the people's hearts will be completely aroused. But now that the heavenly court has unified the empire, they want to clean up those who oppose them and then collapse the empire. In this way, the belief of the heavenly court will be deeply rooted in people's hearts. And Zhang Ziren, it's impossible for you to escape unscathed. If I'm not wrong, you will be killed for disrespecting the heavens as a warning to others. Then what do you want to do? How do you want to help me? Zhang Ziren was still very cautious. He didn't reveal anything when he spoke. Emperor Heaven has treated me well. I can obey the heavenly court's decree and only ask for peace. I think the heavenly court knows this and won't kill me. After all, I've contributed so much. Chapter 974. Human Ancestor? Hearing this word, Zhang Ziren's heart was in turmoil. No matter how high his cultivation was, he couldn't help but be overwhelmed with emotions. That's right, human ancestor. Gu Huasha said. That Hong Ling Sha asked for the identity of the Taoist ancestor, so why can't you become a human ancestor? Your status is the same as the Taoist ancestor. Even the Emperor of Heaven can't control you. The Emperor of Heaven actually made a fatal mistake. The mouth of the Taoist ancestor can't be opened. Once it is opened, anyone can become an ancestor. You can too. You can help me cultivate the dragonless cultivation method? Zhang Ziren didn't believe it. The dragonless cultivation method needs to be comprehended by chance. Even the founder Gu Chensha couldn't do this. If you can do it, then wouldn't you be even more powerful than Gu Chensha? In any case, it's up to you whether you believe it or not. Gu Huasha didn't explain. There aren't many paths you can choose now. In fact, there is only one. The path I chose for you is in line with your path. You are the Tao of the human world. That's why I gave you human ancestor. This is where I am more powerful than Gu Chensha. If you rely on Gu Chensha, you won't be able to obtain the identity of human ancestor. If you rely on the Emperor of Heaven, there's no need to talk about it. Emperor of Heaven will even kill the Taoist ancestor in the end. Your breadth of mind is indeed something that Gu Chensha can't compare to. If Gu Chensha let me directly obtain the human world, I wouldn't have gone to rely on the Emperor of Heaven. Human ancestor, that's a good word. If there's a Taoist ancestor, then there's definitely a human ancestor. Zhang Ziren made up his mind. However, I'm not someone who won't release the eagle until I see the rabbit. First, let me practice the Dragonless Heart Sutra. Moreover, you definitely want some benefits. Tell me, what benefits do you want? I can see that you have already thoroughly practiced the Dragonless Heart Sutra. However, your days are not good either. That Gu Chensha thinks that you are the true body of the Emperor of Heaven. Don't worry about him. What do I need? After you become the human ancestor, the human world will become independent and will no longer be under the jurisdiction of the Heaven Court. After you unify the human world and develop the true Tao of man, I want half of the sacrifices in the human world. Gu Huasha said. As you wish, we can sign a contract. But my cultivation base isn't enough for me to break free from the Emperor of Heaven's control. Becoming the human ancestor is easier said than done. Why don't you let me cultivate the Dragonless Heart Sutra right now? As long as the Dragonless Heart Sutra is truly mastered, we will immediately start the plan. Zhang Ziren began to take the initiative. No rush, no rush. Gu Huasha said, mastering the Dragonless Heart Sutra isn't something that can be done in a day. Now I will teach you the profound secrets, and I will be in the human world's imperial palace. Even if the Emperor of Heaven wants to demote you, I am afraid it won't be easy. I will be your backing, and you can boldly carry out the reform. You can even expel some gods and separate the divine power from the imperial power. This way, the divine power will not be able to threaten the imperial power. In this way, you can abandon the heaven court and further expand the human world's influence. I want to see what the Emperor of Heaven can do to you. You want to help me fight against the Emperor of Heaven? Zhang Ziren didn't believe him. What if you run away halfway? Why would I want to harm you? If you are killed by the Emperor of Heaven, what good would that do to me? If you are still alive, we can work together to strengthen the human world. Gu Huasha said, besides, if you don't promise me, do you think the Emperor of Heaven will let you go? If my guess is correct, the Emperor of Heaven will make a move against you soon. The heavenly decree has arrived. Zhang Ziren received the decree. While Gu Huasha was speaking, a loud and clear voice suddenly resounded throughout the imperial palace. As expected, the heavenly court's decree has arrived. Zhang Ziren stood up and went to the imperial palace. This palace wasn't the imperial court's main hall, but a hall for offering sacrifices to the heavens. At this time, the heaven offering hall shone brightly, and the image of the Dharma saint appeared in the middle of the light. So the heavenly king of reform has graced us with his presence. Zhang Ziren hurriedly bowed. This decree is extremely important, so the Emperor of Heaven asked me to come personally to pass on the decree. The Dharma saint looked at Zhang Ziren with an expressionless face, and without any pleasantries he said, now, receive the decree. As he spoke, the Dharma saint began to read the decree. The Lord of the human world, Zhang Ziren, has opened up the human world and has made great contributions. He should be rewarded. Quickly enter the heavenly court and be given an official position. The heavenly king of reform will choose another emperor to manage the human world. I'm going to heaven now? Zhang Ziren was stunned. He understood the meaning of this. The heavenly court wouldn't allow him to continue managing the human world, and the Dharma saint would choose another emperor. Then what about my family? What should I do with my sons and descendants? Don't worry, I will make arrangements for them. The Dharma saint said, now that the human world has settled down and there are no more loopholes, the heavenly court will restructure the human world, so you have to consider the big picture. Moreover, with your cultivation, it isn't good for you to stay in the human world for a long time, as it will affect the heavenly court's authority. Think about it, in the human world, there isn't anyone above Tao Realm 20. What realm are you at? Heaven Essence Realm. Moreover, you are thousands of times stronger than normal Heaven Essence Realm experts. With someone like you in the human world, won't people respect you and weaken the heavenly court's authority? The longer you stay, the deeper your sins will be. Now that the Emperor of Heaven is protecting you, you should be thanking him for letting you enjoy immortality in the heavenly court. After you receive the decree, follow me to the heavens. So fast. Zhang Ziren was shocked. After I receive the decree, I need to explain things to the officials and my sons. No need, I will deal with these things. The Dharma saint said, quickly go to the heavens, the Emperor of Heaven will give you a good position. Then, if I do this, I will be missing? It will cause chaos in the court and the people will be unstable. Zhang Ziren tried to delay time. He knew that the Emperor of Heaven would attack him after he stabilized the situation, but he didn't expect it to be so fast. He hadn't even finished discussing with Gu Huasha, and the Emperor of Heaven had already attacked. Moreover, he summoned him so urgently. If he went to the heavenly court, he would definitely be doomed. No need. The Dharma saint said, even if the human world is in chaos, how far can it go? There are gods everywhere, and the people who obtained the mutated source have been cleaned up. If I interfere and choose a new emperor, do you think I won't be able to suppress it? Let's depart quickly. Seeing that Zhang Ziren still didn't move, the Dharma saint suddenly showed killing intent. What? Zhang Ziren, you dare to defy the decree? Dharma saint, your cultivation. Zhang Ziren was shocked to find that the Dharma saint's cultivation was almost unfathomable. If he fought with the Dharma saint now, he might not have the slightest chance of winning. Zhang Ziren, if you dare to defy the decree, even if you use the power of the human world, I can still capture and suppress you. The Dharma saint said, the human world is completely controlled by the heavenly court. You can't use much of the power of the human world. You are dilly-dallying now. In your heart, you already have the idea of betraying the heavenly court. Just this point, I can completely capture you. Dharma saint, I know that if I follow you to the heavenly court, even if I get a temporary position, I will definitely not have a good ending. The Emperor of Heaven will definitely take advantage of some of my loopholes, deprive me of my cultivation, and send me into reincarnation. From then on, I will be consigned to eternal damnation, right? But if the Emperor of Heaven treats me like this, sooner or later, he will do the same to you. You have to think clearly. Zhang Ziren said. Zhang Ziren, your sins are grave. The Dharma saint shouted, but I don't care about this. Quickly accept the decree and go to the heavens. Dharma saint, I am the master of the human world. If there is a merit in the human world, I can accept the decree. But I want to ask the Emperor of Heaven for a reward. Zhang Ziren said. What reward? The Dharma saint's killing intent rose, but he calmed down. He wanted to hear what Zhang Ziren wanted to say. The Emperor of Heaven recognized that Hong Ling Sha as the Taoist ancestor. I, Zhang Ziren, am not talented, but I am proficient in the Tao of the human world. I hope to be conferred the title of human ancestor. At this time, Zhang Ziren was definitely not willing to wait for death. What? Human ancestor? The Dharma saint's body surged with power. Zhang Ziren, how dare you call yourself an ancestor? Are you trying to rebel? Dharma saint, don't be so agitated. Zhang Ziren was a peerless hero. The more he thought about it, the calmer he became. The Emperor of Heaven has already given us a chance. Also, don't you want to be the spell ancestor? I remember that when you were in the divine continent of the heaven realm, you once told people that your dream was to be the teacher of the Emperor of Heaven. Right now, you are just a subject. If you become the spell ancestor, it will be completely different. You will be the ancestor of all laws. Spell ancestor. When the Dharma saint heard this word, his heart throbbed. Indeed, Hong Ling Sha becoming the Taoist ancestor was beyond many people's expectations. Deep in his heart, he was extremely dissatisfied. There could not be two suns in the sky, and people could not have two masters. This was a great blow to his Tao of law. However, he could not fight against the Emperor of Heaven. However, the law was most afraid of the first opening. Once this opening was opened, it would be out of control. As soon as the word spell ancestor came out, it was immediately planted in his heart. Sooner or later, it would take root and sprout. However, it was impossible for him to show mercy just because of Zhang Ziren's words. He knew that the Emperor of Heaven meant to deal with Zhang Ziren. This was a clear matter. The human world no longer needed a master with too much prestige and cultivation to compete for glory with the heavenly court. Zhang Ziren had to be dealt with. Zhang Ziren, no matter how glib your tongue is, it is useless. The Dharma saint said, you want to be the ancestor of the human world. This is disgraceful. Since you are unwilling to obey the imperial edict and disrespect the imperial edict, don't blame me. Capture him. Inscriptions of law appeared on the Dharma saint's body. These inscriptions gathered together and formed a rope that wrapped around Zhang Ziren. Dharma saint, how dare you! Zhang Ziren quickly mobilized the power of the human world, but it was useless. The Dharma saint's current strength was actually far above his. Chapter 975. Nihility Ancestor Chapter 972, Nihility Ancestor Chapter 972, Nihility Ancestor. This time, Gu Huasha made his move. Gu Huasha didn't appear personally. Instead, he secretly channeled his cultivation base into Zhang Ziren's body, allowing Zhang Ziren to resist the corrosion of the Dharma saint. At the same time, he had to counterattack and capture the Dharma saint. Indeed, my gamble was right. When Zhang Ziren felt the boundless energy within his body, he knew that he had made the right choice. However, this was the only choice he had. Otherwise, only death would await him. The Emperor of Heaven didn't care about emotions. If he followed Gu Huasha, he might be able to struggle on while at death's door. Naturally, Zhang Ziren wouldn't completely trust Gu Huasha. He was merely borrowing Gu Huasha to increase his strength and obtain some breathing space. Otherwise, he would have died right now. And now that he and the Dharma saint were to make a move, it meant that there was no room for reconciliation with the Heaven Court. As the ruler of the human realm, he had to lead the human realm to rise up against the Heaven Court. However, he didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. Instead, he felt some sort of release from the depths of his heart, causing his entire being to turn pure. In an instant, a bright light shone from the top of his head as streams of Dragonless Heart Sutra flowed out. He actually started to comprehend it, causing his cultivation base to rise steadily as well. Wonderful! Gu Huasha was watching the battle from the great hall of the palace. Once this Zhang Ziren lets go of his burden and breaks off with the Heaven Court, he would also be able to stimulate his spirit force. This man is a powerful character to begin with, but he is being suppressed by the Heaven Court. After releasing his spirit force, he might have a chance to master the Dragonless Heart Sutra. The human realm is where the fate energy is, and the ruler of the human realm is the core of the fate energy. My plan seems to have a chance of succeeding. Zhang Ziren himself was truly a crucial character. The fate energy on him was almost incomparable. Humans represented the spirit of all living beings. The human realm was the ruler of all worlds. Theoretically speaking, the heavenly court was nothing more than a parasite that attached itself to the human world, absorbing nutrients from the human world to strengthen itself. Zhang Ziren's determination to break off relations with the heavenly court was actually in line with the Tao of the human world. Rumble! Something in him was stirred. In the span of a breath, many of the shackles of power in the human realm were broken by him, and he regained the power of the human realm. Crackle! His power spread out and the human realm automatically rotated. With him as the center, a circle of ripples erupted. Wherever the ripples went, all the gods were swept away and disappeared in the ripples. The Heaven Court created all kinds of gods, earth gods, city gods, door gods, and so on. There were countless of them. This was especially true in the capital. Now, all the divine spirits in the capital had been swept clean, melted by Zhang Ziren's ripples. Then, the ripples continued to expand. Hundreds of thousands of miles, millions of miles, hundreds of millions of miles, billions of miles, 10 billion miles. All the divine spirits in the surrounding area had been wiped out in an instant. The phenomenon of the gods who look 3 feet above their heads no longer existed. How dare you! Seeing this situation, the Dharma saint almost couldn't restrain his anger. Zhang Ziren, do you know what you are doing? You destroyed the foundation of the divine spirits in the heavenly court and disturbed the human realm. You will be stripped of everything and you will beg for death. Ha 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 ha! Zhang Ziren laughed loudly. Dharma saint, you are wrong. The moment I broke off relations with the heavenly court, I have completely put down the shackles of my soul and obtained the blessing of the righteous path of the human world. As the creator of the human realm, my strength is no longer below yours. My cultivation can completely suppress you. No matter how strong you are no match for the human realm. A small human realm appeared above Zhang Xiren's head. The appearance of this human realm meant that Zhang Xiren's control over the human realm had deepened a lot. Using the power of the human realm, it seemed to be a piece of cake for him to suppress the Dharma Saint. No matter how strong the Dharma Saint was, compared to the entire human realm, he was still insignificant. The human realm was more than 10,000 times bigger than the original heavenly realm. Even if he could only use 1/10,000th of the human realm's power, it was equivalent to the entire power of the original heavenly realm. Zhang Xiren, it seems that you are really reckless. Do you really think that you can use the human realm? The heavenly court has been planning for so long and has long penetrated into every bit of the human realm. Completely controlling the human realm is just around the corner. This little fluctuation of yours is just a wave in the surging tide. Suddenly, the Dharma Saint used some kind of divine ability and left the battlefield. He directly returned to the heavenly court. As for Zhang Xiren, he slowly withdrew his power and panted. He didn't dare to chase after him, nor did he dare to take the opportunity to attack the heavenly court. Just now, when he used the power of the human realm, he felt that he suffered a huge backlash. He almost used up all his strength and almost collapsed. He knew that his strength was still not enough. If it wasn't for Gu Huasha's input, he would have already died from exhaustion. Zhang Xiren, your strength is still too weak. Gu Huasha walked over and said, but there is one thing that is not bad, you can finally control the power of the human realm again. The human realm is inconceivable. With each passing day, it will expand a little and its power will increase a lot. If you completely control the human realm, you can definitely be called the ancestor of human. Now that I have completely severed my ties with the heavenly court, what do you think my next step should be? Zhang Xiren became completely polite to Gu Huasha, almost like a student asking his teacher for advice. At first, I thought that you are the true body of the Emperor of Heaven, but now it seems that you are not. Because if you push me to become the ancestor of human, it will be a huge blow to the heavenly court. This kind of thing, unless the Emperor of Heaven is schizophrenic, he will definitely not do it. You can't understand what I mean for now, but it doesn't matter. You just need to remember that I can save you from this disaster. Otherwise, you would have been captured by the heavenly court and sent into reincarnation, suffering for generations to come, and your family's fate would be even more miserable. Gu Huasha said, if I guessed correctly, the heavenly court will not openly attack you, but someone will rise up in the human realm to change the dynasty. The human realm has its own rules. If the Emperor of Heaven acts to suppress you, it is equivalent to destroying some kind of fate. Ha 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 ha! Zhang Xiren laughed. This way I am not afraid. If the heavenly court openly attacks me, and the Emperor of Heaven acts to suppress me, I am very afraid, because I am not a match for the Emperor of Heaven. I can only destroy indiscriminately. But if the Emperor of Heaven does this, I don't care at all. This is the most ruthless move. Gu Huasha's face did not have a relaxed expression. You underestimate the power of this move. In fact, the Emperor of Heaven already predicted that you would rebel, so he has many plans. A new child of destiny will appear, and after he appears, he will take your position. At the same time, when the two of you fight each other, the Emperor of Heaven will take the opportunity to make the people's hearts stronger. Split and combine and separate. The creation of the mandate of heaven, the rise and fall of the mandate of heaven, this is a smelting process. The Emperor of Heaven treats the human realm as a giant forging furnace, and you are all his smelted steel. I want to see what kind of child of destiny will deal with me, the human ancestor. Now, Zhang Ziren did not call himself the master of the human realm, but directly called himself the human ancestor. That person will appear soon. What you need to do now is to strengthen the foundation of the imperial court, worship the human ancestor, and abolish the heavenly court's worship ceremony. You need to bring about the belief that man can conquer the heavens. Guasha said, once the words man can conquer the heavens come out, and you are the ancestor of humanity, the sacrifices and fate energy will all be gathered on you. After a period of time, your Dragonless Heart Sutra will definitely be completed, and it will not be impossible for you to reach the realm of Hongling Sand. In that case, I still need your help. At this time, Zhang Ziren would definitely not let go of Gu Huasha. I will definitely help you. However, when you worship the human ancestor, you can also erect an ancestor, and that is the nihility ancestor. The ancestor of nothingness is me. The so-called nihility ancestor is empty, and it gives birth to everything, but it does not exist. Everything is born from nothingness. Nothingness is me, and I am nothingness. I am the ancestor of everything, and I occupy the highest position. You, the human ancestor, live below me. Of course, you can recruit the Grand Feather Sand and worship the Taoist ancestor. That way, you can quickly dissolve the power of the Emperor of Heaven. Gu Huasha said. That's a good idea. Zhang Ziren laughed. The nihility ancestor is at the top, the human ancestor is at the bottom, and the Taoist ancestor is at the same level. That way, when the three ancestors join forces, they will naturally occupy all of the destiny in heaven and earth. As he spoke, Zhang Ziren's keen senses picked up on something. So, Gu Huasha and Gu Chensha seem to have some sort of rift, and Gu Chencha's Dragonless Heart Sutra takes up the word nothingness. Now that Gu Huasha wants to become the nihility ancestor, he wants to occupy all of the destiny of the word nothingness, and cause Gu Chensha to lose some sort of destiny. After that, Everlasting will have a new master. Zhang Ziren said, I think we can add another ancestor, and that would be the eternal ancestor, Gu Chensha. What do you think? That's fine. Gu Huasha's expression flickered. He looked at Zhang Ziren for a moment, then smiled. If you want to do it, then just do it. You're being very insightful. I guess I underestimated you. Based on this idea alone, I can tell you that your future is limitless, and that you won't be killed by the Emperor of Heaven. In that case, I'll get it done right away. Zhang Ziren could tell what Gu Huasha was hinting at, but he played dumb and left to gather the officials of the court. After a moment of thought, Gu Huasha vanished. After they were gone, Gu Chensha appeared. The fourth is very interesting. Very interesting. Not only will this eternal ancestor not help my cultivation base, it will actually weaken my destiny. After all, I've already begun to reach the deathless level, and the sacrifices of all living beings will bind me to the eternal level. That doesn't matter to me. The fourth, the fourth. You're very mysterious, but now I know exactly what your relationship with the Emperor of Heaven is. Chapter 976. Banishment. Chapter 973. Banishment. Gu Chensha had a well-thought-out plan and was in control of everything. The fourth Gu Huasha had manipulated Zhang Ziren to rebel against the heavenly court. He wanted to worship the nihility ancestor, the Taoist ancestor, the human ancestor, and himself, the eternal ancestor. It could be said that he had taken up a lot of fate. Fate was of no use to Gu Chensha, but it was still useful to his subordinates, so he still had to observe and control it. Fate was the direction of the future. The future was ever-changing, and fate was constantly changing. No one could grasp it. But to Gu Chensha, who had jumped out of the principle of fate and fate, it could be said that he no longer had any fate. Or rather, any fate could be controlled by him. He came to the back of the palace and once again looked at the reincarnated Gu Daoxian, who was now the 19th prince. At this time, concubine E was observing this son of hers. Suddenly, a group of eunuchs from the palace came to deliver a decree. The human ancestor's decree states that concubine E has performed meritorious service in childbirth and will be made empress. The 19th prince will be given the name Zhang Yiren. This decree was issued by Zhang Ziren. He no longer called him the emperor, but the human ancestor. This was the beginning of the rebellion against the heavenly court. Indeed, as soon as the decree was issued, a huge wave of fate and mortal power landed on concubine E and the infant Zhang Yiren. Concubine E was not much, but Zhang Yiren's body was strengthened by the fate, and immediately changed. His body started to grow and he could already walk. He was like a 5 or 6-year-old child. A new consciousness was born in Zhang Yiren's body. Not bad, not bad. Gu Chensha sighed in praise. As Zhang Yiren's fate gathers, a new consciousness is born. Once this consciousness gathers, it will gradually grow stronger. In the end, it will replace Gu Daoxian's consciousness, and it will even affect that terrifying consciousness, allowing me to understand some of the things contained within that terrifying consciousness. This Zhang Yiren's future achievements will be extremely great. Of course, the prerequisite is that he can subdue the ancient Tao immortal's consciousness and terrifying will in his body. This Zhang Yiren was undoubtedly Gu Chensha's experimental subject. However, if something unexpected really happened, this person would most likely rise again and become a giant in the world, far surpassing Gu Daoxian. However, Gu Chensha hoped to produce such a person. It did not matter even if he became enemies with him, because it was precisely because he needed a rich variety of experimental subjects that he could achieve the highest realm of the dragonless mantra. The Hongling sand was one of his experimental products, and now there was another one, Zhang Yiren. Gu Chensha saw that Zhang Yiren was growing rapidly, so he nodded and left. He was going to find another person, the new child of destiny. Zhang Ziren had betrayed the heavenly court and called himself the human ancestor. It was impossible for the Emperor of Heaven to personally suppress him, so he would definitely nurture a brand new child of destiny. This child of destiny would rise and lead all living beings to kill Zhang Ziren. In this way, the Emperor of Heaven would be able to extract even purer immortality from the struggles of all living beings, and thus advance. This was also a method to refine the human heart. Therefore, Zhang Ziren's betrayal was actually within the Emperor of Heaven's expectations. In fact, it was even a part of his plan. Gu Chensha left the imperial city and looked around. He saw that in many places the system of gods had collapsed. The power of the underworld had also been suppressed to the extreme, and new changes had occurred in the human realm. The originally dense power of the mortal world seemed to have been absorbed by some kind of power. Many experts broke through the shackles and were reborn, no longer needing to ascend. The order of the human realm was somewhat chaotic, but in this chaos there was vitality. In the past, the human realm was completely controlled by the Emperor of Heaven. Even the existence of the three corpses God existed in the hearts of people, always reporting all the thoughts and ideas of people to the heavenly court. But now, this kind of monitoring was much weaker. Gu Chensha did not take any action. He carefully observed the human realm, and at the same time, he also wanted to see what the Emperor of Heaven was doing, and where the newly selected child of destiny was. But the Emperor of Heaven did not move for a long time. On the other hand, Zhang Ziren began to take action. In a few months, with the capital as the foundation, he began to carry out actions and slogans. He abolished the worship of the heavenly court, abolished the worship of the land god, abolished the worship of all kinds of gods, and even did not worship the stars, the sun and the moon in the sky, only the ancestors. In this way, the heavenly court did not attack. After half a year, the foundation of Zhang Ziren was stabilized, and he began to expand to various places in the human realm. However, the human realm was really too big. Even in the past, with the confidence of the heavenly court, Hong dynasty could not really take over the four sides. There were still large areas of the uncivilized land that had not been conquered. It was even more so now. Many dynasties were born in the human realm, and they all had their own way. The situation changed so quickly that even Gu Chernsha could not take it all in. 5 years had passed, but the heavenly court still hadn't taken any action, allowing the changes in the human world to occur. In these 5 years, Zhang Ziren's strength had become stronger and stronger, and his son Zhang Yiren seemed to have grown up as well. He began to help him do some things, and sometimes Zhang Yiren even secretly fought against the experts of the heavenly court and even won. All of this was seen by Gu Chernsha. He remembered that in the past, the heavenly talisman emperor fought against the heavenly Tao, and he was besieged on all sides. Then, he rose up and pacified the four-side. Everything was similar to the past. Of course, Zhang Ziren's strength was far from being comparable to the heavenly talisman emperor, but the situation was exactly the same, and there was a feeling of reincarnation. This was also the effect that Gu Chernsha hoped for. As expected, the heavenly court can't stand it anymore? At this time, Gu Chernsha's heart moved, and he found that there seemed to be some kind of light flashing high up in the sky. Deep in the heavenly court, the Emperor of Heaven sat on the high throne, and behind him was the primordial chaos sky pillar. On top of the pillar hung the primordial chaos sky list, and below him were the many ministers of the heavenly court, led by the Sun Moon Lord and the Dharma Saint. Hong Ling Sha, the Taoist ancestor, was not here. Your Majesty, it has been 5 years since that Zhang Ziren proclaimed himself as the human ancestor. He abolished the worship of the heavenly court and disrespected the heavens. This is getting more and more serious. I think the heavenly court should take action and directly kill this person. The Dharma Saint stepped forward and reported. It's not very appropriate for the heavenly court to take action in the human realm. Dharma Saint, do you know why I allowed that Zhang Ziren to do what he wanted for 5 years? The Emperor of Heaven said. Your Majesty has great foresight, we don't know. The Dharma Saint hurriedly said. I was cultivating a secret art to consolidate my realm. Now I've finally mastered it. In this world, other than Gu Chernsha, no one can be my opponent. The Emperor of Heaven said. That Zhang Ziren rebelled and proclaimed himself as the human ancestor. He worshipped the Nihility ancestor, the Taoist ancestor, and the eternal ancestor. This was also my arrangement. Poor Zhang Ziren thought he had succeeded, but in fact, everything was under my control. At this time, the Sun Moon Lord Hua Mingsha actually spoke up in the heavenly court. Your Majesty, in this case, I request to abolish the Taoist ancestor and directly suppress him to prevent the heavenly court's authority from being tarnished. How dare you? Suddenly, Patriarch Hongluk spoke up. Celestial emperors and Tao fathers are treated as equals. This is a rule that was set down long ago. Lord of the Sun Moon, you actually dare to act so audaciously as to abolish the Tao fathers? Your Majesty, I request to banish the Sun Moon Lord into the cycle of reincarnation, never to be reincarnated. Because of his daughter, Ancestor Hong Yuan had entered the heavenly court with a group of experts. These years, he had been operating his forces. In the heavenly court, the Taoist ancestor and the Emperor of Heaven had been fighting openly and secretly, but nothing big had happened. Ancestor Hong Yuan, you want me to banish the Sun Moon Lord? The Emperor of Heaven looked at Ancestor Hong Yuan with a mocking expression. All of your merits are shown on the primordial chaos heaven list. Your merits are at the bottom, and you don't even have any merit. You even have sins. The Sun Moon Lord's merits are at the top, second only to the Reform Heavenly King. What do you say? Your Majesty, merits can't be determined. Ancestor Hong Yuan didn't fear the Emperor of Heaven at all. Back then, I established the Taoist ancestor as an expedient measure. Now, his cultivation has been completely stabilized. the Emperor of Heaven said. In that case, the Taoist ancestor must be abolished. Hong Yun, I'll strip you people of your cultivation right now and send you into the cycle of reincarnation. Rumble. The Emperor of Heaven made his move. As he made a grabbing motion, all the people of the heavenly court who belonged to the Tao Palace were enveloped by a power. Emperor of Heaven, are you going to attack me so soon? A woman's voice rang out. It was the Hong Feathersand. Hong Feathersand, your cultivation has improved a lot in the past 5 years. But for me, it's like trying to put out a cart of firewood with a cup of water. The Emperor of Heaven shook his head. I'll give you a chance. Restore your status as the Heaven Empress, and I'll let you go. Emperor of Heaven, do you really think you can do anything to me? The Hong Feathersand looked at the Emperor of Heaven. I've cultivated the Dragonless Heart Sutra. I know all your moves like the back of my hand. There's no way you can deal with it. Is that so? The Emperor of Heaven shook his head. Do you think you're the only one who knows the Dragonless Heart Sutra? As he spoke, the Emperor of Heaven flipped his palm, and an endless river appeared in his palm. Inside the endless river, there were many waves, and each wave was a civilization. What? This is the Dragonless Heart Sutra? Your understanding of the Dragonless Heart Sutra is higher than mine? The Hong Feathersand was shocked. Go suppress. The endless river and the civilization flew out and wrapped around the Hong Feathersand. Nirvana of heaven and earth, all things are immortal. The Hong Feathersand made a prompt decision, and a freedom flower emerged from her body to block the endless river. Then, the freedom flower exploded, and she disappeared, falling into the human world. However, the freedom flower, which she had painstakingly extracted from the Eternals, was destroyed. She couldn't even protect Patriarch Hong Yun and the others. They were all sucked into the endless river of civilization, screaming miserably. Hong Feathersand, you made a prompt decision. You abandoned the freedom flower, which was formed from the Eternals you extracted from the sacrifices, and escaped this calamity. However, the sacrifices you received from the celestial court were all contained in the freedom flower. Now that you've returned them, what else do you have? The Emperor of Heaven retracted his spell, and a freedom flower appeared in his palm. Chapter 977. The Grand Plume Sand had escaped. She had given up on the sacrificial power she had painstakingly gathered over the years to extract everlasting energy from it. Finally, the freedom flower she had forged escaped. The freedom flower landed in the hands of the Emperor of Heaven. Although her people had escaped, they had suffered great losses. It was like the Emperor of Heaven had lost his own heavenly court. And the Emperor of Heaven hadn't suffered any losses over the years. Instead, he had used the Grand Plume Sand to extract everlasting energy. The freedom flower is not bad. Not bad. Let it be a decoration for the heavenly court. As he spoke, the celestial emperor tossed the flower into the air, causing it to grow right next to the celestial emperor's throne and take root. Instantly, the entire heavenly court seemed to undergo a fundamental transformation. All of the immortal officials and gods felt as if the heavenly court had expanded again, as if it were indestructible and eternal. Everyone. Seeing this, the Dharma saint's cultivation began to condense and revolve. His skills became even more profound, and he might even touch the 7th level of immortality. The Dharma saint's cultivation advanced too quickly. This was the accumulation of his destiny. In the heavenly court, he was second only to the Emperor of Heaven. His Majesty has already expelled the Grand Plume Sand and abolished the so-called Taoist ancestor. From now on, the heavenly court will be united. Don't think about anything else. Focus on worshipping His Majesty and protecting the heavenly court's authority and rule. Also, Hua Yao Sha, Mighty Miracle God, Jiang Chuan, and God Maha, your 4 realms are also expanding. Among them, the monster race, God race, celestial race, and demon race seem to be restless. You must manage these realms well. If these realms start to fall into chaos, it will be troublesome, the warlock saint said. No matter. The Emperor of Heaven said with a smile, I have the overall situation under control. Those people, including Gu Churnsha, no longer have any chance. The turmoil in the human world was deliberately arranged by me. As the saying goes, a life is destroyed and a life is reborn from the ashes. The more turbulent the human world is, the more people want peace. Only when the son of destiny is born will there be fertile soil. Only when the pool of muddy water can a big fish be born. After this chaos of life and death, my cultivation will improve further. Master of the four realms, heed my command. Your subject is here. The Lord of the demon world, Huayao Sha, the Lord of the God world, the Great Spirit God, the Lord of the immortal world, Jiang Chuan, and the Lord of the devil world, Mahakasyapa, all dropped to their knees. They could sense how unfathomable the Emperor Heaven was, and how terrifying he was. If they resisted, he could send them into reincarnation with the flick of a finger. Hurry up and send the experts of the four realms down to the human world to wreak havoc. At the same time, help the newly born child of destiny. That new child of destiny will kill Zhang Ziren, accumulate resources, and finally complete the great cause. The Emperor Heaven said, of course, after the new child of destiny reaches his peak, he might rebel like Zhang Ziren. At that time, another child of destiny will be born, and he will defeat him. This cycle of harvesting is like harvesting crop. The power of chaos and peace will be harvested into the heavenly court. Your Majesty is wise. Everyone knelt down. At this time, the masters of the four realms also returned. Your Majesty, now that the stability of the human world has been destroyed, the power of the mortal world is starting to dissipate, and many experts can be born. The Dharma saint said, it seems that if it is a prosperous world, the power of the human world is dense, and demons can't be born. If it is a chaotic world, the power of the human world will dissipate, and many people will be born. At this time, the child of destiny will be born to stabilize the human world. In this tribulation, some of the old gods will be eliminated, and some new gods will be conferred. This way, the heavenly court will be able to inject new blood. Dharma saint, don't worry. You will soon transcend, and there will be no more tribulations. The Emperor Heaven comforted the Dharma saint. You have already understood the true meaning of law. As long as there is order, you will not die. But this time, God Maha, especially the Great Spirit God, Jiang Chuan, will fall, and the new masters of the world will be born. The heavenly court will have new blood. This time, we will clean up the heavenly court again. The celestial Dharch had already thought of everything. As the heavenly court continued to forge, it became more and more stable, and the celestial Dharch would eventually comprehend the undying realm. In these 5 years, he didn't manage the human world, but let it develop. Now, he was going to send the experts of the immortal, demon, monster, and celestial realms into the human world to cause trouble. Rumble! The Emperor Heaven moved again. Light flickered around his body, and boundless power condensed into a small dot of light. It broke through the heavenly court's gray space, descended into the human world, and disappeared. The Dharma saint knew that this was the birth of the child of destiny appointed by the Emperor Heaven. The child of destiny is born. In the divine world, the mighty miracle God was sitting on his throne. At this time, the divine world had also become extremely huge. Many true God thrones were floating in the air. Gods were sitting on them. Each of them had condensed their own divine countries. However, they were all under the jurisdiction of the mighty miracle God. The heavenly world was actually very boring. True gods had much longer lifespans than ordinary people, but they didn't have much activity. Every day, other than offering sacrifices, cultivation, and more sacrifices, Many gods wanted to go down to the human world to take a look, to understand the human heart, to understand the world, to pass on faith and to collect sacrifices. That was because the rules of the heavenly court were very strict. Even if true gods went down, they would be immediately polluted, let alone the original rich red dust energy. Then, Zhang Ziren rebelled, and the red dust energy weakened. These true gods wanted to go down, but they didn't dare, because the heavenly court didn't order it. Lord God, this time, the Emperor Heaven really wants us to go down and cause chaos? Is there such a good thing? Asked a true god. I'm also thinking about this. The great spirit god's eyes flashed. What is the Emperor Heaven thinking? I have a feeling of unease. Haha. The great spirit god, it's normal for you to feel uneasy, because you are about to fall into a tribulation. The Emperor Heaven wants you to die. This time, going down is a tribulation. At this moment a few voices came. A group of people appeared in the god realm. They were led by Subhutuo, Yuangu, and Doshing. Among them were Wan Senshi, Jingqiu, Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, and Gu Hua, who had always kept a low profile. This group of people were originally the powerhouses who caused chaos in the heaven realm. But after the heavenly court was established and the human realm was formed, these people became members of the heavenly court. Jingqiu became the innocuous heavenly king, while Gu Hua became the calamitous heavenly king. As for Gu Tanjian and Gu Changjian, the two who obtained the Sword of Infinity and the Sword of Infinity, and Wan Senshi, they became subordinates of the heavenly king of reform. Subhutuo, Yuangu, and Dosheng also became subordinates of the Dharma saint. What are you doing here? The great spirit god became vigilant, thinking that this group of people had come to deal with him. His senses were extremely sharp, and he could already sense that something was wrong. Everyone, could it be that you have come to take away my position as the master of the god realm? If so, then please do it. I definitely won't resist. Brother, you're overthinking things. At this time, Jingqiu spoke. Do you think that you're the only one who will face this tribulation, and that all of us will face it? Although I am the innocuous heavenly king, I still took Jing Fanxing's heavenly king essence, which is a violation of the will of the Emperor Heaven. Now I can sense that the tribulation is coming, and it's incomparably miserable. My identity as the innocuous heavenly king will soon be lost. Of course, the same goes for Gu Hua. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the Emperor Heaven is changing people on a large scale. This time, the blood of the heavenly court will probably be changed. Let's not talk about anything else. The great spirit god said, Yuangu, Pu Tua, Doshing, the three of you will definitely face the tribulation. The Emperor Heaven has long been dissatisfied with your half-heartedness, but he didn't banish you into the cycle of reincarnation. Perhaps he wants the new people he nurtured to kill you, and use you as stepping stones. That's right, Yuangu said. The same goes for you, the great spirit god. In that case, the three of you have come together with me, but if you move out like this, I'm afraid that the Dharma saint will find out, and it will be extremely disadvantageous for you, the great spirit god said. So what if the Dharma saint finds out? Can't we even save ourselves? Moreover, don't be fooled by the Dharma saint's complacent now. In fact, if he encounters the tribulation, no one can save him. Yuangu laughed coldly. The Dharma saint is too complacent. He doesn't know that the greater the favor, the greater the tribulation. There's no point in discussing this now. The great spirit god said, let's think about how to avoid the tribulation and obtain benefits from it. This tribulation chaos is undoubtedly caused by the Emperor Heaven. Zhang Ziren's rebellion in the human world actually has the support of Gu Huasha. Rumor has it that Gu Huasha might be the true body of the Emperor Heaven. But now, it seems that he might not be. What's real and what's fake, who can tell? Jingqiu said, our top priority is to cultivate the Dragonless Heart Sutra, gather faith in the human world, and refine immortality. The stronger we are, the more confident we will be in dealing with the tribulation. This is something that cannot be doubted. Of course, we must also work together and not kill each other. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. I agree with this point. We have been fighting for so long from the heaven realm to the human world. The structure of heaven and earth has changed. The Great Spirit God said, we must not continue fighting. When we reach the human world, we can contact the Hong Ling Sha and many other forces. We can still benefit from both sides. I can already see that as long as we can completely cultivate the Dragonless Heart Sutra, even the Emperor Heaven can't do anything to us. Look at the Hong Ling Sha. After she cultivates the Dragonless Heart Sutra, her mind has obtained great freedom. She calls herself the Taoist ancestor. Even the Emperor Heaven tolerated her for 5 years and couldn't even capture or kill her. Jing Qiu said, originally, I thought that after cultivating the Dragonless Heart Sutra, I would be controlled by Gu Chun-sha. Now, it seems that there is no such thing. Look at the Hall of the Heavenly Court. The Emperor Heaven defeated the Hong Ling Sha with the Dragonless Heart Sutra. If the Emperor Heaven can learn it, why can't we? Chapter 978. Mighty Miracle God, Gu Zhanjian, Gu Changjian, Yuan Gu, Putua, Do Xing, Immortal Master Wan, and the others came to an agreement and formed an alliance once again. Actually, all of these powerhouses had ulterior motives, but for the time being, they could only join forces to protect themselves from the calamity. Gu Chun-sha, who was strolling in the human world, didn't care about the affairs of these insignificant people. He didn't do anything in the past 5 years, just like the Emperor of Heaven, letting the changes in the human world happen. The changes in the human world could be said to have been caused by the fourth Gu Huasha. Zhang Ziran's rebellion and went to the heavenly court to worship the Nihility ancestor, the Taoist ancestor, the eternal ancestor, and the human ancestor caused the human world to be divided again. The human world was already in a mess. There were countries everywhere, gods, demons, and all kinds of mutants and monsters were in chaos. The heavenly court also showed no signs of interfering. Although the power of the underworld was secretly managing some reincarnation, it was 99% weaker than before. Many people had comprehended the path of immortality and were no longer in reincarnation. There was even a period of time when the underworld sent many Een gods to capture those who didn't enter the reincarnation cycle, but many of them were killed. The battle between the underworld and the cultivators began. The human world was in unprecedented chaos. Amidst this chaos, Gu Chun-sha sensed an instinctive desire for peace in the depths of the hearts of all living beings in the world. If this chaos continued, the desire for peace in the hearts of all living beings would grow stronger and stronger. If a person appeared at that time and pacified this chaotic world, they would become the savior of the world. In many people's hearts, they would have the virtue of saving the world, and they would have the desire to save the world. That person's strength would rise to the limit. There were too many living beings in the human world. It was not like the small number of people in the divine central continent back then. The divine central continent was so large that billions of living beings worshipped together, and the power was enough to shake the world. If all living beings in the heavenly realm worshipped one person, that person's strength would probably immediately reach the divine prime level. Now, the human realm was tens of thousands of times larger than the heaven realm. If someone were to receive the merit of saving the world, the sacrifices of all living beings, the power in their hearts would converge into one. That person would definitely reach a terrifying level. The Son of Destiny actually landed here? Gu Chun-sha saw a beam of light descending from the heaven court and disappeared as soon as it reached the human realm. However, he could keenly see that the place where the light landed was in a country called Qi. Qi's country wasn't bad. Its land area was about the same as that of the Central Divine Prefecture and the Wildlands combined. The China clan was thriving and flourishing. It was like a raging fire, and the people's hearts were united. It could be seen that the ruler of this country had great ambitions and was working hard to rule the country. Gu Qinsha directly entered the capital city of the Qi country. The capital city of the Qi country was built majestically, with airships everywhere. There were even teleportation gates. The combination of technology and immortal Tao civilization could be said to be perfect. Vaguely, there were also many experts overseeing them. There were deities, sages, and even heavenly venerables. There were even stronger experts. The beam of light descending from the heaven court entered the depths of the palace. Following that, a baby was born. Gu Qinsha concealed himself and directly entered the palace. He found that the depths of the palace were filled with restrictive magics that even ghosts and gods would find it difficult to enter. However, to him, it wasn't even comparable to a child's game. It's born. Many people walked about. And then, the emperor of the Qi country appeared. The emperor of the Qi country was a middle-aged man. He was incredibly dignified, and his entire body shone with golden light. Behind his head were layers of light that seemed to contain the life and death of the 5 elements. The Qi country's destiny was absorbed by the light, and it was cultivated into a divine art. This divine art was extremely profound, and it seemed to contain the aura of a country and the world. This is a genius. This cultivator actually managed to transform the power of destiny in the human realm into a marvelous art. The concept is quite marvelous. The stronger the destiny of the nation, the more powerful this person's cultivation base will be. However, this transformation is still a bit lacking. Gu Qinsha looked at the emperor of the Qi country with a hint of praise in his eyes. This emperor hadn't been born into a good family, nor was he the reincarnation of some powerful person. He was just an ordinary person with extraordinary intelligence. Over the past 5 years, he had encountered some fortuitous encounters that had allowed him to rise to his current level and establish his own nation. My son was born with such a phenomenon? The emperor of the Qi country said. Could it be that I, Yang Qiheng, am really that lucky? As soon as my son was born, I can sense that the destiny of my nation has increased by several times, and it's still increasing? Within the palace where the baby had been born, auspicious clouds swirled around it, and a fragrant aroma wafted into the air. There were also numerous magical symbols that formed heavenly flowers that flickered incessantly. This phenomenon lasted for a very long time. Many people in the palace stared in shock. But that didn't count for much. The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, could sense that the destiny of his nation had increased by several times, or even dozens of times. That was something that shocked him to no end. In the mortal world, it wasn't unusual for destiny babies to be born with strange phenomena. After all, there were as many nations as the eternal sands of the universe, and when the monarchs of those nations were born, they were said to have caused strange phenomena. But when a nation's destiny increased, it wasn't a simple matter. The destiny of a nation was constant, and was something that came from the hearts of the people. It was formless and intangible, and yet, it could increase the cultivation base of a cultivator. If a nation suffered one calamity after another, and the imperial court didn't do a good job in providing disaster relief, the people would be filled with resentment, and the destiny of the nation would decline. If a nation expanded its territory and reformed itself, the destiny of the nation would increase dramatically. Of course, if a nation wanted to double its destiny, it would have to conquer a territory of the same size. But now, with the birth of a baby, the destiny of a nation was increased by dozens of times. That was simply unimaginable. The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, found it hard to believe. As for Gu Qinsha, it was completely normal. The descent of the Son of Destiny meant that the support of the Heaven Court would come. Many people would also join them. How could such an increase in destiny be something that expanding land could compare to? As expected, when the emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, hugged the baby and observed, someone came to report, "Your Majesty, a priest has appeared outside. He said that there was a phenomenon and he hopes to meet you." Scoff. The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, laughed coldly. There will always be some people trying to play tricks. What is his cultivation like? Your Majesty, this person's cultivation is deep and immeasurable. I have tested him, and he probably has the ability to destroy countries and cities. The person who reported was an expert. He was actually a God realm expert who was above Transformation 30. Even you say that he is deep and immeasurable? The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, was shocked. It seems like this person is really skilled. Let him in, I want to see. In just a moment, a young priest walked in. Congratulations, Your Majesty, an expert has appeared in your palace. This person is really strong and might unify the human world in the future. I am here to congratulate you. At the same time, I am willing to help Your Majesty to start a great cause. The young priest bowed and said, I am Yu Xuanlong, an Empyrean realm expert. The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng's expression changed. This was because he could see that this young priest was actually at Empyrean realm. If they had such a strong helper, the country would naturally prosper. But if they couldn't restrict such an expert, that would be a huge problem. The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, thought about it for a long while and a smile appeared on his face. It is good that priest Yu is willing to join the dynasty. But let's not talk about unifying the human world, as that will cause huge problems. Not to mention how vast the human world is, our Qi country is just a drop in the ocean. Ha ha ha! The young priest Yu Xuanlong said, the human world is getting more and more chaotic. Many places are filled with demons and demons. The people have no way to live and they want peace. At this time, we need a savior. In 100 years, there will definitely be a savior who will come to save the world. If anyone can become the savior, it will be a great merit. At the same time, the person who follows the savior will also obtain great merit and enjoy immortality. Priest Yu, you must have a strong person behind you to be able to find this place so quickly. The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, said. I am from the Taoist Palace, Yu Xuanlong said. Taoist Palace? The emperor of the Qi country, Yang Qiheng, frowned. Our Taoist Palace is huge, it is not inferior to the heavenly court. At this time, Yu Xuanlong used a telepathic technique. Gu Chensha looked at this young priest and knew that he was from the Hongling Sand. The Hongling Sand was known as the Taoist ancestor. He was banished by the heavenly court and came to the human world. Now, he was cultivating his own forces. Whoosh! Gu Chensha left the place. The Son of Destiny was confirmed. He was in the Qi country. The changes in the future would revolve around the Qi country and Zhang Ziren's empire. The other countries were just supporting characters. In a secret place in the human world, Gu Chensha changed his body and entered it. In an instant, he saw a palace. The palace was majestic and was surrounded by countless rays of light. In the depths of the palace, a woman was sitting and cultivating. This woman was the Hongling Sand. Ancestor Yong, please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. The Hongling Sand suddenly opened his eyes. Ancestor Yong? Gu Chensha appeared in front of the Hongling Sand. From this sentence, I can see that your dragonless heart technique is still very lacking. No wonder you were banished by the Emperor Heaven and the freedom flower that you made was taken away. Many years of hard work was wasted. That Zhang Ziren rebelled against the heavenly court and made you the ancestor Yong. This is also Gu Huasha's idea. I can see that you two brothers have an agreement. Otherwise, he would not do something that seems to be for your own good on the surface, but in fact, it is to weaken your fate. The Hongling Sand did not seem to be afraid of Gu Chensha. In my opinion, your fate has weakened a lot. The title of Ancestor Yong has also caused your dragonless heart technique to stagnate. Chapter 979. Gu Qinsha, do you think that you are invincible just because you created the Dragonless Heart Sutra? Let me tell you the truth, the Dragonless Heart Sutra is indeed mysterious, but you are just the creator. Later generations can continue to enrich the Dragonless Heart Sutra and eventually surpass you. The Dragonless Heart Sutra you created is just a concept, and the later generations can surpass you. There are countless examples of this in history. Hong Lingsha said, I have comprehended the Dragonless Heart Sutra that is more profound than yours, and the Emperor of Heaven is the same. So, you think you can defeat me? Gu Qinsha said, Hong Lingsha, in that case, why don't you make a move? If you devour me, the founder of the Dragonless Heart Sutra, it will be very beneficial to your cultivation. You came prepared, and with the Emperor of Heaven watching like a tiger, I don't want to fight you. Hong Lingsha said, You came to find me today, could it be that you want to join hands with me? It seems that you also know that the Emperor of Heaven's strength has greatly increased, and you can't deal with him alone, so you came to find me? I don't want to join hands with you, and the Emperor of Heaven is not someone I can easily deal with, but I don't want to make a move now, because the Emperor of Heaven is still of some use to me. That terrible thing is about to be born, and the heavenly Tao and my father will be destroyed at the same time. At that time, besides the birth of that terrible thing, the human realm and the heaven and earth will once again undergo a new change, and the situation of the heaven and earth will be completely different, and the universe may even have a new Big Bang. I came to find you today to ask you, in this time of the heaven and earth change, where do you go? Gu Qinsha said. The heaven and earth change? Hong Lingsha frowned. When? Could it be that you can see when the heavenly Tao and Gu Taxian will be destroyed at the same time? In a few years? Or a few decades? In the past, I could tell that this human realm is formed by the fusion of the heaven realm, the primal chaos, the spirit realm and a series of other worlds. It is more than 10,000 times larger than the heaven realm of the past. Gu Qinsha said, but this time, the collapse of the heavens way and my father, aside from the terrifying thing that was produced from their collapse, there is also the power that leaked out, which is much stronger than the primal chaos. It would not be strange for the human world to expand several times, tens of times, or even hundreds of times. At that time, not to mention the experts of the heaven origin stage, there would be a lot of experts of the heaven realm. Would you be able to control the situation? Is that true? The Grand Feather Sand said, but what you're trying to say is that you're also in control of the situation in the future, so you want to join forces with me. No, it doesn't make much of a difference to me whether or not you join forces with me. Gu Qinsha stretched out his palm, and countless civilizations appeared in it. These civilizations leaped, advanced, and evolved on their own, surging forth like huge waves. Just this slight movement caused the Dragonless Heart Sutra within the Hongling Sand's body to squirm and tremble as though it wanted to jump out and fall into Gu Qinsha's grasp. Not good. The Hongling Sand was shocked. She immediately sat down cross-legged and used all her strength to suppress the restlessness of the Dragonless Heart Sutra within her body. Gu Qinsha's palm turned in the void. Rumble! The Dragonless Heart Sutra in his palm bloomed with the countless civilizations, and they all started to advance. The moment the civilizations advanced, they would release an absolute power that triggered the Dragonless Heart Sutra within the Hongling Sand's body. 1. The Dragonless Heart Sutra within the Hongling Sand's body finally couldn't suppress it anymore, and it directly flew out, falling into Gu Qinsha's palm. The Hongling Sand finally couldn't hold it in any longer, and she violently coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her whole body slumped down softly, and she lost all her strength. In an instant, she became an ordinary person. You How are you so strong? Even the Emperor of Heaven couldn't possibly take away all my cultivation. To think that you could take away all my strength so effortlessly. Just what kind of existence are you? The Hongling San's eyes finally revealed an incomparably terrifying look. She had originally thought that Gu Chencha's strength was within the range of her estimation. But now, it seemed that Gu Chencha's strength had far exceeded her estimation. She didn't even have the slightest ability to resist before her cultivation was taken away. In front of Gu Chensha, she was just like a baby. I'll return it to you. Gu Chencha's palm shook, and instantly, the cultivation that he had absorbed from the Hongling Sand earlier was injected back into the Hongling Sand's body. In an instant, the Hongling Sand regained her strength. You! The Hongling Sand was obedient this time. You actually didn't absorb my strength. What is the meaning of this? She was increasingly unable to understand Gu Chencha's thoughts. It's very simple. I want to tell you that I don't want to join forces with you because your strength is simply too weak for me. Originally, I thought that you would be able to contend against the Emperor of Heaven and cause a lot of trouble for the Emperor of Heaven. But you were still chased out by him. Gu Chensha sighed. The reason why I didn't make a move against you is because you still have room to improve. In the future, when the Heavenly Tao and Father of Heaven collapse at the same time, you will also be able to obtain great benefit. At that time, your dragonless cultivation technique will truly be completed. If I kill you now, the moment the dragonless cultivation technique collapses in the future, your benefits will be transferred to another unknown expert. It will instead be troublesome. Gu Chensha said. Remember, when the day of the collapse comes, it will truly be a complicated situation. At that time, the situation will be tens of thousands of times more complicated than it is now. Gu Chensha, you let me off this time, but I still won't submit to you. Also, is there any hidden scheme in your dragonless cultivation technique? Does anyone who cultivates the dragonless cultivation technique have to be restrained by you? Hong Lingsha seemed to have lost some sort of confidence in himself at this moment. Your confidence has completely collapsed. This is not a good thing. For you to ask such a question, it means that you don't seem to have a very good understanding of the dragonless cultivation technique. If the dragonless cultivation technique can be controlled by me, then it means that this cultivation technique is not the truth. Gu Chensha waved his hand. Also, you established the Holy Ji Palace and sent experts to look for that child of destiny. Are you trying to disrupt some of the actions of the Emperor of Heaven? Absorb his fate? But I'm afraid that it will be used by him instead, because his comprehension of the dragonless cultivation technique is already higher than yours. The dragonless cultivation technique that I just absorbed from you has returned to you. As long as you carefully comprehend it, you will be able to obtain even more profound things from it. Only then will you not be taken advantage of by the Emperor of Heaven. Are you helping me by doing this? Hong Lingsha became vigilant. What are you trying to do? As I said, it's to deal with the complicated situation in the future. Gu Chensha said. There are many opportunities in the human world now. I've set up a chess piece, which is Zhang Ziran's son, Zhang Yiren. This person's body contains the terrifying will and ancient Tao immortal source that I've sealed. His potential is far above that of the so-called child of destiny. So you have this trick up your sleeves. No wonder I felt that Zhang Yiren is not simple. However, Zhang Ziran seems to be controlled by that brother of yours, Gu Huasha. Gu Huasha made you the eternal ancestor and himself the nihility ancestor. It's obvious that he wants to be a level higher than you. What do you say? Hong Lingsha asked. Everything is under my control, Gu Chensha said. I'm setting up a plan. Everything in this plan is a chess piece. When everything is set up, I will deal with the terror that is born from that terrifying thing. In that case, I'm also a chess piece. Hong Lingsha was a bit unhappy, but there was nothing he could do. It's not that you can't say that. In short, you're on your own. Of course, you can set up a plan for the child of destiny. You're at a disadvantage in the game between you and the Emperor of Heaven, but as your cultivation improves, you might be able to turn things around. After Gu Chensha said this, he disappeared. Looking at Gu Chensha's back as he left, Hong Ling Sha sank into deep thought. This person's strength is indeed boundlessly tyrannical. What is he trying to do? What is the relationship between Gu Huasha and the Emperor of Heaven? Is he an enemy or a friend to Gu Chensha? I really don't understand how things will develop. However, the great Hong dynasty that Gu Huasha controlled Zhang Ziren to establish and the Qi country where the child of destiny was born will definitely have a competition. This is my best chance. Great Hong dynasty. Within the imperial city. In a certain palace, Zhang Yiren, who was only 5 years old, already looked like a 15 or 16-year-old boy. He wore the rolling dragon robe and his face was gloomy. There seemed to be a ball of black air flowing deep between his eyebrows. The aura on his body was extremely strong, as if he had activated some kind of huge power. Heaven and earth change, the sun and moon lose their light. My Tao is activated, the hearts and minds are one, suppressing evil and cleansing the source. Zhang Yiren seemed to be cultivating. Crackle. As he operated his power, the black air between his eyebrows was gradually suppressed. Then, he stood up, and his power seemed to have become more profound. Congratulations, 19th Highness, your strength has increased greatly. At this time, a few maids heard the commotion and rushed in. One of them quickly said, "Among the many highnesses of the Emperor, I think 19th Highness is the strongest. In the future, you will inherit the throne, and it will be just a matter of time." "Don't say that." Zhang Yiren waved his hand and said in an old-fashioned manner, "Father is a great strategist, and there is still a long way to go. How can I talk about inheriting the throne? Besides, although our imperial court is at its peak now, we have many enemies. The heavenly court is our greatest enemy, and we must not slack off." Clap, 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 clap. There was applause, and then a few teenagers came in through the door. One of them was about 20 years old. 19th brother, I didn't expect you to have such a big view at such a young age. We are all inferior to you. So it's big brother, second brother, third brother, fourth brother. Zhang Yiren looked at the people who came in and immediately bowed. His eyes flashed with a sharp light. There was a lot of intrigue within the Hong dynasty. It was inevitable for many princes to fight among themselves. 19th brother, let's go. Soon, Father Emperor will hold the ceremony to change the dynasty. A few princes looked at Zhang Yiren with jealousy, because this 19th prince's cultivation was advancing by leaps and bounds every day. Chapter 980. Change of Dynasty. Chapter 977. Change of Dynasty. Hong Dynasty was named after the Heaven Dynasty. If he continued this name, Zhang Ziren would be controlled by the Heaven Dynasty and wouldn't be able to be independent. There would be a huge problem with karma, so he decided to change the dynasty. Zhang Ziren called himself the human ancestor, so his dynasty would be the human dynasty. The human dynasty occupied the human world, so of course, all the fate would belong to him. Zhang Yiren had some thoughts in his heart. Although he was only 5 years old, he seemed to be good at everything. His intelligence was no weaker than some old antique. He followed the princes to the sacrificial plaza in the center of the palace. The sacrificial plaza was grand and majestic. It wasn't a sacrifice to the heavens, but to a giant monument. The words, "Man conquers heaven," were carved on the monument. Beside it were the small steels of the Nihility ancestor, human ancestor, Taoist ancestor, and Yong ancestor. The officials of the dynasty were all worshipping this steel. Zhang Ziren stood in front of the 5 steels and looked at the start of the ceremony. Many princes arrived and stood at their designated spot. Many of them were nervous and the atmosphere was really depressing. Today's ceremony was about to change the dynasty. Changing the name of Great Hong Dynasty to Human Dynasty would definitely incur the wrath of the Heaven Dynasty. In the past 5 years, His Majesty has abolished the God Spirit sacrifice, destroyed every household's god, destroyed the land, the city god temples, and even passed down the 3 corpses cultivation method. All of this is going against the heavenly court. However, in the past 5 years, the heavenly court hasn't done anything on a large scale. It's really puzzling. One of the officials secretly communicated with the other officials. Minister Li, before this matter ferments, the Heaven Dynasty definitely won't let us live so comfortably. A huge war is about to arrive. Another official said secretly. The cultivation of these 2 officials was actually at the Sage Realm. Moreover, they were at the Saint Realm and had reached the Tao Realm 35 and 36 changes. Such a realm was just the position of a minister. There were many other officials, kings, and even generals. The imperial court that Zhang Ziren had established was enormous. Its territory was more than 100 times larger than that of the Central Plains Divine Prefecture and the 4 Desolate. It had abundant resources, vast land, a large population, and a large number of experts. In the past 5 years, Zhang Ziren had been cultivating and recruiting experts. Many experts hidden in the human world had been dug out and had come to him. At the same time, because of the changes in the human world, the power of the mortal world had dissipated once again, and many cultivators had sprung up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. There were also some experts from the celestial world, devil world, immortal world, demon world, underworld, and even the heavenly court. They couldn't bear the loneliness and came down to betray the Emperor of Heaven, submitting to him and enjoying the prosperity of the human world. This caused the power of the imperial court to expand rapidly. Of course, as Zhang Ziren's cultivation grew higher and higher, he would be able to suppress it. However, Minister Han, I do know that if this ceremony is successful, our cultivation bases will reach the heavenly exalt stage. Another minister said, also, I know that if the ceremony is successful, His Majesty the Emperor can directly ascend to the Heaven Realm. Heaven Realm? A few of the officials were shocked. Is this true? The experts of today, no matter how tyrannical they were all in the sky origin stage. It was just that some had the power of 1 yuan, some had the power of thousands of yuan, and some even had the power of 10,000 yuan, 100,000 yuan, 1,000,000 yuan. But even if they had the power of 100 million yuan, they were still only in the sky origin stage, and could not reach the Heaven Realm. Rumor has it that only the Emperor of Heaven and Gu Chensha have reached the Heaven origin stage. The human world is much larger than the Heaven origin stage. If the ceremony is successful, and the human world's essence approves of it, His Majesty might actually reach the Heaven origin stage. At that time, not even the heavenly court would be able to do anything to him. We all came down from the God world. We don't want to go back to that boring place. That's right. Back in the day, we established an empire in the human world and enjoyed the ceremony. But then the Emperor of Heaven increased the power of the mortal world, and we had no choice but to ascend to the God world. Once in the God world, all we had to do was pray to the heavenly court. We were like prayer puppets, and from time to time the Great Spirit God would embezzle us. Now that we're in the human world, we still have to listen to the imperial court, but we also have a lot more freedom. One of the generals hated the heavenly court. His words resonated with many of the officials. Most of the officials came down from the God world and the immortal world. In the God world and the immortal world, they were like puppets. All they did was pray and pray. They basically had no freedom at all. You don't count. I came from the underworld. The underworld is terrifying. It's dark all day, and there are all kinds of hellish torture. I made a mistake and was sent to the underworld. I was tortured to death every day. One day, I will definitely destroy the underworld and destroy the heavenly court. I won't regret it even if I die 9 times, one of the generals said. This general was a celestial master-level expert. He was not far from the heaven origin stage. Everyone, Zhang Ziren stood high up on the altar and saw the divine wills intertwining on the sacrificial plaza. He could see everything. These ministers were all carefully selected by him. They were all capable, but at the same time, they were extremely dissatisfied with the heavenly court. Many of the heavenly court's methods were oppressive. Many experts in the celestial world, God world, demon world, and the underworld were living a life worse than death. The Emperor Heaven's methods restricted people's freedom. After the 3 corpse gods came out, they affected people's hearts and minds. This would definitely cause a backlash. During this backlash, Zhang Ziren grasped the opportunity to break free. This ceremony will completely break free from the heavenly court's control. If this ceremony succeeds, everyone here will be able to rise by at least 1 realm. If you are at the God realm, you can reach the Saint realm. If you are at the Saint realm, you can reach the Celestial Master realm. If you are at the Celestial Master realm, you can reach the Heaven Life realm. Those at the Heaven Life realm might reach the Heaven Origin realm, Zhang Ziren said. However, it was possible that only Zhang Ziren could succeed in rising from the Heaven Origin realm to the Heaven realm. Hearing Zhang Ziren's words, all of the officials quieted down and began to worship. Everyone, sincerely worship our court and despise the heavenly court, Zhang Ziren said. If we succeed, we can take over the human realm. As Zhang Ziren presided over the sacrificial ceremony, the news spread. Almost all of the cities controlled by the Great Hong Dynasty had sacrificial ceremonies taking place. The Great Hong Dynasty was a combination of a technological civilization and a celestial Tao civilization. That was why every city had a teleportation gate, and there were flying ships in the sky. There were also many space-folding technologies. Apart from that, many immortal cultivators could change as they pleased, but they were all under the control of the court. At that moment, a projection of the imperial court's sacrificial ceremony appeared in the sky above every city. Everyone looked at the projection and started to pray along with the imperial court's sacrificial ceremony. These people knew that if they prayed, they would be able to obtain fate from the upcoming changes and advance. This Zhang Ziren is really ruthless. In a city at the edge of the Great Hong Dynasty, a few people who had snuck into the city looked at the sky and exclaimed. These people were Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, Yuan Gu, Putuo, and Dou Xing. Should we follow the ceremony? Gu Xingjian suddenly sneered and said, I feel that by following the sacrificial ritual this time, we can indeed benefit from a lot of fate energy, allowing our strength to rise to another level. But if we do that, we will probably completely offend the heavenly court. After all, we are part of the heavenly court. This time, the heavenly court sent us to the lower worlds to create chaos. In fact, they have already given up on us. They want us to face the calamity in the midst of the chaos. Even people like Jing Qiu are disheartened. Gu Changjian said, We go to the lower worlds to gain benefit. When our calamity comes, the heavenly court will not come to save us. We can only save ourselves. Therefore, if we follow Zhang Ziren's ceremony and weaken the heavenly court's power, we will obtain fate and benefit. Only when the heavenly court's power becomes weaker can we protect ourselves. I agree with that. Yuan Gu nodded. In that case, let's do the ceremony together. The group of 5 began to move. Woo 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 on the huge land of the Hong Dynasty, the power of the ceremony gathered together and rose into the sky, completely covering the sun and moon. Then, the ceremony penetrated the ground at the same time. Everyone who participated in the ceremony felt relaxed. This relaxed feeling came from the depths of their hearts, as if they had been freed from some kind of shackles. The heavenly court had activated the harshest shackles on all living beings. Now, the ceremony was going to break away from the heavenly court's control. It was going to break away from karma and fate. All living beings regained some kind of freedom. Rumble. High up in the sky, the heavenly court stood tall. Suddenly, the power of the ceremony triggered the human world and fiercely attacked the heavenly court. The heavenly court immediately shook. This power was too strong, even the heavenly court could not suppress it. Your Majesty. The warlock saint and the others immediately came forward and looked at the Sky Emperor. That Zhang Ziren is simply insane. He actually incited a sacrificial ceremony. He should be a person. This is a complete break with the heavenly court. He wants to attack the heavenly court and weaken our destiny. It is necessary to kill Zhang Ziren. No rush. The celestial arch was very calm. It's only natural that Zhang Ziren would change his dynasty. Now that he's so arrogant, if I were to make a move, it would ruin the original plan. However, I can still teach him a lesson. As he spoke, a talisman appeared in the Emperor of Heaven's hand. Ming Fei, take this talisman and gather the officials of the heavenly court with the Dharma saint. Throw it down from the heavenly gate. Yes. Ming Fei Wu Dangkong took the talisman and saw a few words written on it. Heaven's will is hard to defy. Chapter 981. It's time for me to act. After becoming concubine Ming, I've been training hard, but it hasn't been of much use. I haven't made much progress. Looks like I'll hit a bottleneck if I follow the Emperor of Heaven. I'm at the Sky Origin realm now, but all the sacrifices and immortality I've accumulated over the years are only the power of a few thousand worlds. It's far from enough. I need to reach the Heaven realm. Concubine Ming Wu Dangkong hadn't been comfortable these past few years. She wanted to become the Heaven Empress, wanted to suppress everyone with her cultivation, but the Emperor of Heaven never gave her the chance. The Emperor of Heaven would rather create a new Heaven Empress, Hong Ling Sha, than make her the new Heaven Empress. Even though the Emperor of Heaven's plan to create Hong Ling Sha as the Heaven Empress failed, he still didn't make her the Heaven Empress. This caused Wu Dangkong to feel extremely resentful. Wu Dangkong didn't have any loyalty, only benefits. She wasn't loyal to the Emperor of Heaven either. If someone gave her enough benefits, she would immediately betray the Emperor of Heaven. In fact, deep in her heart, she was thinking of ways to devour the Emperor of Heaven, obtain the power of the heavenly court, and become the Emperor of Heaven herself. It seemed that the Emperor of Heaven saw through her thoughts, and didn't give her any chance. However, after getting his hands on this decree, Wu Dangkong felt that his chance had come. This Zhang Ziren, in order to fight against the Emperor of Heaven, roped in everyone, and even offered sacrifices to the Nihility ancestor Gu Huasha, the eternal ancestor Gu Churnsha, the Taoist ancestor Hong Ling Sha, and the human ancestor himself. If I can get sacrifices and call him ancestor, I'll definitely be able to reach a higher level. Wu Dangkong thought, but I want Zhang Ziren to offer sacrifices to my ancestor? Martial ancestor? That doesn't seem very good. Right, it's the ancestor of Heaven. I am the ancestor of Heaven. Take this edict that says Heaven's will is irresistible as an exchange. When they arrived at the gate of Heaven, they looked down at the lower realm. The huge human realm was full of people. Countless ambitious and ruthless people with great luck were running their own businesses. Once again, the scene of a group of heroes dividing their territories appeared. Of course, the biggest piece in front of them was the Hong dynasty, which was about to change its name to the Human dynasty. Whoosh! When he arrived at the heavenly gate, Wu Dangkong held the edict of Heaven's mandate in his hand. He did not wait for the Dharma saint and the celestial lords and celestial officials. Instead, he directly descended. Your Majesty! When the Dharma saint saw this, he was shocked. He quickly flew back and knelt in the main hall. Concubine Ming went directly to the lower realm. She did not listen to your Majesty's arrangements. Concubine Ming's fate is within my expectations. It is a test for her. If she really wanted to advance and avoid the fate, she would not have done this. It can be said that one thought is life and one thought is death. Now, in order to advance, she has chosen to betray the heavenly court. That is a path to death. Even I cannot save her. The Emperor of Heaven waved his hand. He did not care about this at all. Continue to follow my orders. Yes. When the Dharma saint saw the Emperor of Heaven's actions, he knew that everything was within his control. Perhaps this was a plan. Zhang Ziren, who was performing the sacrifice in the lower realm, suddenly realized that there was a hole in the sky. A ray of light shot down. This light landed in front of him and revealed the appearance of a person. It was concubine Ming, Wu Dankong. Wu Dankong, what are you doing here? Are you here to destroy the sacrifice? Is the heavenly court going to war with us? Zhang Ziren did not dare to act rashly. Zhang Ziren, the Emperor of Heaven wants to punish you. He even wrote a talisman that cannot be disobeyed to suppress you and destroy the sacrifice. However, I felt that it was inappropriate, so I stole this talisman and came here to make a deal with you. How about it? Wu Dankong said. What deal do you want to make? When Zhang Ziren heard this, he was secretly delighted. This Wu Dankong was the concubine Ming, and he had actually betrayed the heavenly court. This meant that his fate had increased. It's very simple. You can create another ancestor called the Ancestor of Heaven. I will be the Ancestor of Heaven. This way, I will completely integrate into your system. How about it? In addition, as an exchange, I will give you the talisman personally written by the Emperor of Heaven. Destroy this talisman, and you will truly succeed in changing the dynasty. There will be no more tribulations. Wu Dankong said. Ancestor of Heaven? When Zhang Ziren heard this, he suddenly laughed and thought, this Wu Dankong really has no chance. She actually wants to be called Ancestor of Heaven. This is equivalent to going against the Emperor of Heaven. However, the Emperor of Heaven still hasn't conferred her the title of Heaven Empress. It is only natural that she would betray the Emperor of Heaven. In such a big era, if she doesn't come out and create a storm, she would be an expert in vain. All right, the Ancestor of Heaven will be the Ancestor of Heaven, Zhang Ziren said. In that case, let's join forces and establish a supreme foundation. If the Emperor of Heaven doesn't give it to you, we'll take it for ourselves. That's right. If the Heaven Emperor had bestowed the title of Heaven Empress on me earlier, then there wouldn't have been any problems. But since he's stingy, then don't blame me. Wu Dankong waved his hand, and a tablet with the Heaven Ancestor carved on it stood up. The deal is a success. Zhang Ziren nodded. In that case, the Ancestor of Heaven will sacrifice this talisman to the Emperor of Heaven. Shatter this talisman to show that man can conquer heaven. Very good. Wu Dankong took out the talisman and placed it directly under the Man Can Conquer Heaven inscription. Then he spat out a mouthful of true fire, intending to burn the talisman. However, this talisman flickered fiercely, unexpectedly erupting with boundless radiance that spread outwards, about to completely destroy the entire altar. Emperor of Heaven, do you really think that with a talisman, you can suppress the will of the people? Zhang Ziren laughed. All priests lighted up. In an instant, all the priests of the Hong dynasty rushed towards the talisman. Under the control of Zhang Ziren and many other experts, the power of eternity within the talisman was burning, suppressing the indomitable will of the heavens. Rumble! At the critical moment, the talisman suddenly expanded by dozens of times. The giant talisman rose up, covering the entire imperial city. Heavenly punishment appeared within the talisman, with the cries of common people and the howls of ghosts and gods. A wave of power suppressed down. Crackle! All the officials present, including Zhang Ziren, felt extremely uncomfortable. Some of the weaker officials directly fainted. A single talisman from the Emperor of Heaven is actually this strong? Zhang Ziren was shocked, and he used all of his power to fight back. Suppress. The celestial emperor's voice came from the talisman that said, "Heaven's will cannot be defied." The entire imperial city was collapsing, and the surrounding space was being torn apart, as if it were about to be stripped out of the human world and turned into primal chaos. Damn it! Zhang Ziren felt like his power was being completely cut off, and that there was no way he could fight back against the Emperor of Heaven talisman. Only now did he realize how powerful the Emperor of Heaven talisman was. At this critical moment, the ancestral founder inscription at the center of the sacrificial altar emitted a hazy mist, which gradually seeped into the light of the inviolable destiny talisman, and the two began to fight. After an unknown amount of time, the talisman suddenly exploded, turned into scattered immortal power, and was absorbed by the Nihility Ancestor inscription. Gu Huasha made a move. Zhang Ziren gasped. If it wasn't for Gu Huasha, the Emperor of Heaven talisman would have caused great damage. Everyone could clearly see that the mist emitted by the Nihility Ancestor inscription crushed and absorbed the Emperor of Heaven talisman. Immediately, everyone was in awe of the Nihility Ancestor, and a large number of people believed that the Nihility Ancestor was the strongest ancestor, surpassing the Emperor of Heaven. This time, the Nihility Ancestor established absolute prestige in the human world. Amazing Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, Yuan Gu, Putuo, and Doxing, who were at the edge of the altar, also saw this scene, and they were all extremely shocked. That Nihility Ancestor Gu Huasha is actually so powerful? He's on par with the Emperor of Heaven, and it seems that he has already surpassed Gu Chensha? The situation in the eternal world is going to change? After crushing the Emperor of Heaven's talisman, even Wu Dangkong defected. Do Xing laughed. It seems that the Emperor of Heaven can't control the situation, and the Emperor of Heaven's tribulation is about to come. We are much safer now, and if the altar is successful, our cultivation will improve greatly. Look, that Zhang Ziren is starting to wrap up the altar, Yuan Gu said. Let's wrap up the altar too. The few of them started to merge their minds into the destiny of the Hong dynasty, and started to absorb their own things. On the altar in the center of the palace, Zhang Ziren started to wrap up the altar. Everyone, we have already crushed the tribulation of the heavenly court. From now on, we will advance without looking back. I now announce that the Hong dynasty is a thing of the past. Now there is only a human dynasty, and we are the human dynasty. Rumble. With this announcement, the destiny of the entire court reached its peak. The destiny condensed into runes that could be seen by the naked eye, and they fell into everyone's body. Some people received more, and some received less. This was determined by the contributions made during the altar. As expected, Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, Yuan Gu, Putuo, and Do Xing saw a large number of runes fall into their bodies, causing their cultivation to rise, and many bottlenecks were broken. I actually reached the 5th level of the immortal realm, the great immortal realm. Gu Tanjian laughed loudly, feeling the changes in his body. We also reached the 5th level of the great immortal realm, the others said. But rumor has it that the Dharma Saint has reached the 6th level, the eternal immortal realm, which is 1 level higher than us, and he is stronger than us in terms of power. I wonder how much Zhang Ziren's cultivation will increase? Do Xing said. At this time, Zhang Ziren felt the golden destiny fall like a waterfall, and all of it entered his body. This was the true profundity produced when a country's destiny reached its peak. This profundity was very easy to transform into the immortal realm. Crackle! The power of the boundless world in Zhang Ziren's body wriggled, decomposed, and then began to ascend. It became a power that was higher than the boundless world and heavenly origin power. That was the power of the heaven realm. At this moment, Zhang Ziren successfully ascended to the heaven realm. At the same time, the heaven realm in his body was filled with some immortal power. This immortal power had reached the 7th level of the immortal realm, the true immortal realm. Chapter 982. Cultivation was getting more and more complicated and brilliant. Back in the day, Celestial Lord experts were already powerful enough to dominate the world. They could travel through time and space and do whatever they wanted. They could control the world and control artifacts. But now, they could only be considered mid-level characters. Even Heaven Longevity and Divine Essence were the same. But the Heaven Realm was different. No one could reach the Heaven Realm in the past, and it was far from what Divine Essence could compare to. There was only one Heaven Realm, called the Land of Infinity. Its power was endless. No matter how many worlds there were, no matter how many Divine Essence cultivators there were, they could not compare to the Heaven Realm. But now, Zhang Ziren had used the sacrifice to proclaim himself as the human ancestor, and he had reached the Heaven Realm. Once he reached this realm, his power was completely different from before. At the same time, he understood many things. So why no one could reach the Heaven Realm in the past was because they could not refine immortal power. Only by purifying their Tao of immortality to the 7th level, true immortal realm, could one accumulate immortal power and comprehend some mysteries, and then use it to forcefully open a Heaven Realm in one's body. In other words, one had to reach the 7th level of immortality first, and then use that power to open a Heaven Realm. Once it was done, one would have a Heaven Realm in one's body. Of course, the Heaven World inside of Zhang Ziren was not as complete as the true Heaven World had been in the past. However, as long as he continued to absorb power and infuse it with deathless power, he could expand the Heaven World inside of him and give birth to all sorts of living beings. In fact, he could even give birth to celestials, heavenly longevity, heavenly essence, sun, moon, stars, and even the 4 wilds of the divine prefecture. This is the Heaven Realm. How magical! I've reached this level. Zhang Ziren felt the Heaven Realm that he had opened up. Suddenly, an idea popped up in his mind. I have opened up the Heaven Realm within my body. I can use the original Heaven Realm to give birth to many of the original characters. I can even nurture the throne of the Heavenly Emperor. But that doesn't seem possible. I have to reach the Heavenly Tao Realm. The difference between the Heaven Realm and the Heavenly Tao Realm is huge. Once the Heaven Realm was formed, Zhang Ziren's power increased greatly. He was no longer afraid of the Dharma Saint. He even vaguely saw through some sort of fate and fate. As expected, the Tao of man contains unparalleled fate energy. As the ancestor of man, I actually occupy a very important part of the heaven and earth. With the blessing of this fate energy, my cultivation base will continue to rise, and no one will be able to kill me. At least for now, it seems that my decision to rebel against the heavenly court was the right one. Zhang Ziren felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. However, fate can change. The heavenly Tao is capricious and karma repeat. I have yet to completely transcend it. I heard that Gu Qinsha and Heavenly Emperor had reached the 8th level of Immortal Realm, the Immortal Realm. Their cultivation bases were higher than mine. I didn't have the power to resist or kill them. Even Gu Huasha was stronger than me. However, I now understood many things. That Gu Huasha probably had a lot to do with the Emperor of Heaven. Although he had asked me to rebel against the heavenly court, I still felt that things were very strange. But he couldn't tell what was strange about it. However, I definitely can't be restricted by him. It seems that when I have time, I should make more contact with the Taoist ancestor Hong Lingsha, and even Gu Qinsha, and that son of mine, Zhang Yiren. Zhang Ziren looked over at his many sons on the high altar. His 19th son, Zhang Yiren, had boundless potential within him. He also had a huge amount of fate energy, which was no less than his own. He had long since sensed that there was something strange about this child. However, this child's body contained his bloodline, and if he used it well, it would be a great help to him. In fact, it could even increase his own destiny. Everyone, Zhang Ziren said, after this sacrificial ceremony, all of you have obtained great benefits, right? I have also advanced to the heaven realm. After the sacrificial ceremony, all of you can properly digest what you have obtained today. After this sacrificial ceremony, our destinies will be linked together. If any of you harbor evil intentions, you will only weaken your own destinies. From now on, we will be linked together with the human dynasty. If the human dynasty prospers, we prosper, everyone hurriedly shouted. Now, I will make an announcement. Crown Prince. Zhang Ziren's words caused the hearts of all the princes to rise. After this sacrificial ceremony, Zhang Ziren's prestige had reached its peak. Even imperial concubine Ming of the heavenly court had rebelled and joined the human dynasty. In the end, the calamity of the heavenly court did not descend. In everyone's hearts, they felt that Zhang Ziren's power was already set. He could completely contend with the heavenly court. The prince he appointed as crown prince would become a great figure above billions of people and obtain countless destinies and resources. Everyone was listening quietly. Zhang Yiren, come up. Zhang Ziren pointed at the 19th prince Zhang Yiren. Yes, father. Zhang Yiren walked up the stairs in front of everyone and knelt on the altar. From today onwards, you are the crown prince. Zhang Ziren said. If I cultivate in seclusion, you will be in charge. Do you dare to bear this responsibility? I will risk my life. Zhang Yiren kowtowed and said, Since father has given it to me, I will do my best. I will increase the destinies of our human dynasty and destroy the heavenly court. You are wrong. The heavenly court will do its own thing as long as it does not interfere with the affairs of the human dynasty. We will let it be and not fight with it for now. The human realm will be in the human realm, and the heavenly court will be in the heavenly court. We won't interfere with each other, but if the heavenly court attacks us, we won't. But if the heavenly court attacks us, we can only resist and not let them return. Zhang Ziren's words comforted many people. Many officials did not want to fight with the heavenly court and fight to the death. They just wanted to cultivate in peace for the time being. Ancestor of Heaven, don't you think so? Ancestor of Heaven was the current Wu Dankong. Wu Dankong looked at Zhang Yiren and was secretly shocked. This kid's destinies and potential are almost immeasurable. I can feel a huge mutation in it, and there seems to be an extremely terrifying will sealed in it. This kid is much stronger than the Son of Heaven bestowed by the Emperor of Heaven. But this has nothing to do with me. During the sacrificial ceremony, my cultivation has also increased greatly. I will break through in a while. Wu Dankong had indeed obtained incomparable benefits from this sacrificial ceremony. She became the ancestor of heaven and even took away the destinies of the heavenly court's Emperor of Heaven. Moreover, she contributed the most to the success of this sacrificial ceremony. So, her realm was rising steadily. In the future, she even felt that she could reach the 7th level of the immortal realm, the true immortal realm, and then open the heavenly realm. Zhang Ziren, your cultivation is actually one step ahead of mine. However, I have gained a lot of experience from your transformation just now. When I open up the celestial realm, the power in my body will be much purer than yours. Opening up the celestial realm is one thing, but operating the celestial realm is another. The celestial realm is not as simple as a god realm expert opening up their internal world. The internal world, the minor kiliacosm, the medium kiliacosm, the great kiliacosm, and the heavenly realm. Among them, there are only 3 levels, but the difference in foundation is more than 1,000,000,000,000 times. Wu Dankong was also thinking. She had her own set of plans. This Zhang Yiren has a huge amount of destiny and potential. If I can capture him and bring him into my world, I can suppress him as a foundation. In the future, when I open the heavenly realm and operate destiny, it will be extraordinary. Other than that, I can also capture the Son of Heaven who was appointed by the Emperor of Heaven. Zhang Yiren, get up. Zhang Ziren said. Thank you, Father. Zhang Yiren was appointed as the crown prince, but he did not look happy at all. Destiny has increased greatly. Destiny has increased greatly. At this time, some people were observing the weather of the human dynasty from outside the territory of this country. The one leading them was a young scholar. Behind him were several officials and generals. Their cultivation was extremely high. Among them, the young scholar was actually at the heaven primordial realm. No one knew where this hidden expert came from. Master, I see that the destiny of this human dynasty is like the sun in the sky, its chi rushing to the clouds. I'm afraid that in the future, there will be a fierce battle with the Chi country. In this battle, where should we go? Which side does the destiny belong to? To prepare for a rainy day, we have to make arrangements early. It was not easy for our great Ping dynasty to establish its foundation. It cannot be destroyed in a day. A civil official said. This civil official's cultivation was actually at the heaven longevity realm. That's right. It was not easy for our Ping dynasty to establish its foundation. It cannot be destroyed in a day. Therefore, we cannot rely on any side and be annexed by the other side. The young scholar waved his fan. My Ping clan obtained a fortuitous encounter during the upheaval of heaven and earth. Then, we took advantage of the weakening of the heavenly court to establish the imperial court and share the destiny. We also comprehended the Dragonless Sutra and obtained some destiny from it. Now, we are prospering day by day. In the future, it is unknown who will become the overlord of this world. In the past, everyone thought that the heavenly court was the king of destiny. No one could contend against the heavenly court. However, the everlasting realm appeared. Zhang Ziren also rebelled against the heavenly court. Now, they are living extremely comfortably. From this, it can be seen that the overlord of this world is probably no longer a fixed number. When two tigers fight, one will definitely be injured. We can also get a share of the pie. However, that Qi country has now obtained the secret support of the heavenly court. It is expanding almost every day. Experts are emerging one after another. Countless officials and fierce generals have appeared. Now they are expanding their territory and have already subdued many countries. Although the human realm is extremely huge and it will probably take some time to deal with us, it is actually imminent. A minister said, regarding this, does Master have any countermeasures? Chapter 983. Wu Dongkong's betrayal caused the human dynasty's fate energy to increase, charging towards the heavenly court. The Qi country's fate energy also increased, expanding their territory and giving birth to countless talented and bold people. The entire human world is now facing off against each other. But if these two will take over the human world in the future, that might not be the case. I've already seen at least 10 other families' fate energy increasing rapidly. In the future, as these people develop, their fate energy will connect, and they might be able to compete with the human dynasty and the Qi country. Gu Chensha stood high up in the sky and observed the entire mortal world. He had a panoramic view of everything in the mortal world. With his current cultivation, not only could he observe everything in the mortal world, he could even calculate the state of all living beings in his heart and deduce the changes in their fate. Gu Chensha had long reached the heaven realm, and now he had surpassed it, reaching the heavenly Tao realm. Above the heaven realm was the heavenly Tao. In Gu Chensha's body there was no heaven realm, but a supreme mass of energy that could change at will. This was the heavenly Tao. The corresponding power of the heaven realm was the seventh level of immortality, while the corresponding power of the heavenly Tao was the eighth level of immortality. And after the collapse of the heavenly Tao and Gu Taxian, the terrifying existence that was born from their fusion was the ninth level of immortality. The supreme immortal realm had never appeared in the long river of history. Even the heavenly Tao had not reached such a realm. And Gu Chernsha had already started to comprehend this realm. Moreover, he had a lot of clues, and he could only wait for the right opportunity to completely comprehend this realm. The Emperor of Heaven had also reached the eighth level of immortality, but compared to him, he was still a lot weaker. However, the Emperor of Heaven was currently making some deep calculations, and once he succeeded, his strength would probably rise to a terrifying level. As for Gu Chernsha, he didn't interfere. To him, anything the Emperor of Heaven did was a test subject that could inspire him, as well as help him reach the invincible deathless level. If he killed the Emperor of Heaven, he would lose a perfect test subject, which would be bad for his cultivation. His current level of cultivation was beyond the realm of common sense. Most people would still plunder the Tao of others, plundering the sacrifices of others to refine them into deathlessness, plundering the essence of others to strengthen themselves, or absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to cultivate. However, he had already unlocked all of his potential. Boundless and boundless spirit energy surged forth. Not only could he improve himself, but he could also share his spirit energy with the masses, nurturing them. This was what it meant to be nurtured by all living things. Heaven gave birth to all things and nurtured all living beings, but it did not ask for anything in return. Gu Chernsha had already reached this realm. He could nurture all living beings without asking for anything in return. The great era is coming. In order to deal with that terrifying thing, I'll add another flame to the human world. Gu Chernsha thought for a long time. I'll create the fortuitous encounters of all living beings. The experts of the human world will be created by me. In the next few years, decades, or even centuries, countless experts will appear. The stronger the living beings are, the stronger I am. Gu Chernsha moved his hands, and waves of essence, energy, and spirit surged from his body. The enormous essence, energy, and spirit suddenly condensed into a long river above his head. In the long river, many worlds were gradually condensed, as well as countless artifacts. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, axes, spears, hooks, tridents, bells, pagodas, cauldrons, drums. The auras of these artifacts were not any weaker than the primordial dragon gate, the primordial tree, and the heaven sacrificial talisman. Some of them were even stronger. This was Gu Chernsha's current strength. With a thought, he could create artifacts that were stronger than the primordial dragon gate, tens of times, or even 100 times more powerful than the primordial dragon gate. Apart from that, he could also create chaos. The reason for that was because this long river was filled with an endless amount of primal chaos energy. In the universe, the structure of the past was endless chaos that enveloped everything. It kept exploding, giving birth to many worlds. Dust worlds, minor worlds, medium worlds, large worlds, and even the heaven realm. And now, the long river that Gu Chernsha casually created actually included these things. Inject. Gu Chernsha casually tossed the long river into the ground of the human world. Crack, crack. The entire human world absorbed the long river, and it seemed to start expanding again. There was an extremely profound change. In many places in the human world, because of the various treasures that Gu Chernsha injected into the ground, they turned into dragon veins, spiritual energy, immortal energy, and all kinds of high-level energy. The density suddenly increased by hundreds or thousands of times. If in the past, the human world was a barren land, then with the injection of Gu Chernsha, the human world became fertile soil. In the past, the human world was not good for cultivation, but now it was a paradise for cultivation. Gu Qinsha used his own strength, his spirit force, to infuse it into the human world, transforming it. His spirit force had reached such a grand realm. He didn't need any external energy. He could rely on himself to transform the world and enrich it. In the past, Gu Qinsha also relied on absorbing the various energies of the world to cultivate, but now, he was giving back to the world. Gu Qinsha continuously injected his spirit force into the human world. In the blink of an eye, several months passed. Bang! In a certain place in the human world, there was an ordinary-looking child going up a mountain to chop firewood. As the child was chopping firewood, he suddenly fell into a cave. There was a deep pool in the depths of the cave. The water in the pool was clear and cold. When the child fell into the pool, he seemed to have startled some powerful existence. Buzz, at the bottom of the pond, a bell that contained innate supreme chi appeared. This bell had an aura that could suppress the heavens, and it contained countless mysteries and cultivation paths. It could almost gather all spirits and evolve through the ages, surpassing time and space. The bell directly entered the wood-chopping boy's sea of consciousness. The boy's body gave off the aura of the heaven essence realm, and it even contained a lot of essence power. Moreover, he was gradually reborn, and his body gave off undying power. At the same time, in another place, there was a young lady from a noble family. She was reading an ancient book in her room, and then she was embroidering. Suddenly, while she was embroidering, she accidentally pricked her finger and touched the ancient book. The ancient book suddenly gave off a bright light that covered her entire body. In another country, there was a young man who was being bullied. He suddenly dreamed that a ray of light fell on his head and entered his head. Following this, a voice continuously said, "System, activate, bind host, detect mechanism." This was a powerful system that the young man had obtained. This system was even more powerful than the God system of the prehistoric civilization. This sort of fortuitous encounter could allow an ordinary person to become a peerless expert. Perhaps in the next few years or decades, these people would truly appear and replace those famous old antique kill. On a battlefield, there was a general who was constantly killing enemies. He was surrounded by enemies, and just as he was about to be dismembered, the general's great axe suddenly seemed to come to life. With a sweep of his great axe, thousands of soldiers were crushed to pieces. The great axe seemed to contain boundless power. In another prison cell, there was a prisoner who had been wrongly imprisoned. On his last night, he suddenly dug out a box from a corner of the cell. Inside the box was a medicinal pill. After consuming the medicinal pill, he suddenly exploded out with boundless divine abilities. He blasted his way out of the cell and killed all his enemies. There were many examples of this happening in the human world over the past few months. Compared to the fortuitous encounter blowout in the divine central continent, this was on a completely different level. If the fortuitous encounter blowout in the divine central continent was a drop of water, then the fortuitous encounter blowout in the human world was a vast ocean. All of this was caused by Gu Qinsha. Gu Qinsha had used the power of his heart to create countless treasures and fortuitous encounters. He had even created a system, which he sent into the human world to give to various fated people. These fated people might not know who he was, or might not even agree with his ideals, but it didn't matter. He was like the heavenly Tao, without good or evil. He didn't reward people for being kind, nor did he punish them for being evil. He seemed to have broken away from order, and everything was being done for a certain purpose. This is bad. The destiny of the human world is in complete chaos. Zhang Ziren, who had been cultivating in the imperial palace, suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, Wu Dangkong and Hongling Sha were present. As the Taoist ancestor and ancestor of heaven, they had set up camp in the depths of the imperial palace in order to quickly absorb the offerings, refine them into eternity, and increase their destiny. Of course, this was also at Zhang Ziren's request. He hoped that the two of them would stand guard in the imperial palace, lest the heavenly court invaded, and the Emperor Heaven unleashed some of his tricks. At this time, the three of them suddenly sensed the changes in the human world. This was especially true for Zhang Ziren. He was the human ancestor and the ruler of the human world, so the changes in the human world were very clear to him. In his eyes, he activated a secret art and saw all kinds of people with great destiny rising up in the countless countries, continents, and regions of the human world. Some of them might not have improved their cultivation, but their destiny was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. Moreover, when these destiny rose into the sky, it immediately created a scene of dragons and snakes dancing. This meant that there were suddenly billions of people with great destiny in the world. Some of them were even almost as lucky as the children of heaven. Why were there suddenly people with great destiny popping up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain? Chapter 984. I Can Feel It Too. Wu Dongkong's eyes were filled with astonishment. Could it be the Emperor of Heaven's doing? No, the Emperor of Heaven wouldn't do something like this. He's just sacrificing his own vitality and cultivation to create so many fortuitous encounters. The situation in the human world has become chaotic. I can feel millions of huge magical treasures falling into the hands of some people. Many of them are even stronger than the dragon sect, the primordial tree, and the heaven sacrificial talisman. That's right. My feeling towards the human world is that there are many children of destiny rising up from the ground. Some of them are even stronger than the children of destiny appointed by the Emperor of Heaven. Who are these people? Just how powerful was the person who created these people? At least, they look much stronger than the Emperor of Heaven. Human ancestor Zhang Ziren said. Hong Ling Sha pointed at the ancestral monuments erected in the center of the imperial city. Among them, there were 5 monuments of the Nihility ancestor, human ancestor, eternal ancestor, Taoist ancestor, and ancestor of heaven. The eternal ancestor monument seemed to be corroded by a great power and gradually disappeared. The worship of the eternal ancestor also disappeared. The eternal ancestor monument disappeared. Zhang Ziren was shocked. It seems like the great changes in the human world and the countless fortuitous encounters were all caused by Gu Chernsha. But why did he expand the human world, create countless fortuitous encounters, and let countless tyrannical figures and children of destiny stand out? Is he using his own power to nurture the world? Is his power really that strong? Or is there an uncountable amount of it? Can he just waste it like this? It seems like Gu Chensha's cultivation is far beyond our imagination. In front of him, all our schemes are useless. At this time, Wu Dongkong's heart was filled with despair. What should we do next? With the birth of countless experts, I'm afraid it will be even more difficult for us to completely unify the entire human realm, right? There's no need to rush. Even if those who obtained fortuitous encounters appear out of nowhere, their strength might not surpass ours. Zhang Ziren was rather calm. Gu Chernsha is actually making trouble for the heavenly court by doing this. He doesn't even need to do anything himself. He can completely disintegrate the heavenly court by relying on the many experts he created. In a word, it's impossible for the heavenly court to sweep the mortal world and the 3-corpse god into the human world like last time. The heavenly court can't control the current human world at all. But I think there's a deeper meaning behind Gu Chensha's creation of this situation. Where is the Nihility ancestor Gu Huasha? Wu Dongkong said, his strength is far above us. Why haven't I seen him before? It seems like he's not on the same side as Gu Chernsha. Ever since the Nihility ancestor stele was erected, Gu Huasha has disappeared. but I can feel that his power is constantly seeping into some kind of nothingness. He's carrying out an extremely terrifying plan. Sometimes, I can communicate with his will when I offer sacrifices to the nihility ancestor steel. Zhang Ziren said. Now, his cultivation was advancing extremely fast. He had already reached the heaven realm and opened up a complete heaven realm in his body. But he increasingly felt that the gap between him and the nihility ancestor Gu Huasha was getting bigger and bigger. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. He could only wait for an opportunity. Fortunately, Gu Huasha didn't come out at all. He didn't cause any trouble to him. The situation is getting chaotic. We need to properly carry out the plan. The Taoist ancestor Honglingsha said, I think we can even contact those people from the other world and set up an ancestor. This plan is feasible. Zhang Ziren nodded. At this moment, in the heavenly court, the Dharma saint was still sitting next to the Emperor of Heaven and reporting some matters. Your Majesty, the situation is getting more and more out of control. I've been observing the human realm recently. The origin has expanded dozens of times, and it's still expanding. Many people with great fate energy have been born. Countless treasures, and even some systems have fallen into the hands of ambitious people. They are not controlled by the heavenly court at all. Who is the one who did this? Or maybe the world has changed again. The heavenly Tao and that Gu Taxian collapsed at the same time, causing a huge change in the human realm? The Dharma saint couldn't see the situation clearly with his current cultivation. The collapse of the heavenly Tao and Gu Taxian is still some time away. It won't happen so quickly. The current situation in the human realm is caused by Gu Qinsha. The Emperor of Heaven sat on his throne and looked at the changes in the human realm. He didn't care at all. That Gu Qinsha injected his soul power into the human realm. Naturally, he could create many tyrannical existences. This isn't strange. Your Majesty, is that Gu Qinsha really that strong? The Dharma saint didn't believe it. If I'm not wrong, Gu Qinsha's current strength is already on par with the heavenly Tao. Moreover, his understanding of the essence is even deeper than the heavenly Tao. Therefore, the power that created the human realm is similar to the power of the heavenly Tao. The Emperor of Heaven sighed. He used this method to show his strength. I am indeed far inferior to him. I didn't expect him to have actually reached this realm. However, he is afraid of something. That is the terrifying thing that was born when the heavenly Tao and Gu Taxian fell at the same time. Once this thing is born, it has the possibility of destroying him. What? Even your Majesty is not a match for that Gu Qinsha. The Dharma saint was a little flustered. Dharma saint, you don't need to panic. It's hard to say what will happen in the future. The changes in the human realm and the birth of many people with fortuitous encounters are actually just a small matter. The Emperor of Heaven said. In the future, when the heavenly Tao and Gu Taxian collapse at the same time, the structure of many worlds will undergo a huge change. At that time, many people in the heaven realm will be born. You have been loyal to me and didn't betray me. Since that's the case, I'll help you once and let you ascend to the heaven realm. As he spoke, the Emperor of Heaven pointed. Instantly, a river of talismans flowed into the Dharma saint's body. Immediately, the immortal power within the Dharma saint's body boiled. It reached the 7th level, true immortal. Then, this true immortal brewed. Gradually, with a huge explosion, the embryonic form of the heaven realm was born. The Dharma saint's aura rose steadily. Bang! In the end, a small heaven realm was opened up in his body. The Dharma saint hurriedly knelt down. Your Majesty's grace, I will never be able to repay it. He was ecstatic. This was the heaven realm. A few decades ago, this realm was unimaginable. When he lived in the heaven realm, he felt that the entire heaven realm was vast and boundless. In front of it, he was just a drop in the ocean, a speck of dust under the starry sky. But now, his body could give birth to the exact same heaven realm. How many times had this realm increased? The Dharma saint had a feeling that he could die in the evening. Slowly, the Dharma saint calmed down. He felt the mysteries of the heaven realm in his body. He knew that the times had changed. The heaven realm wasn't the peak. Above the heaven realm, one could even reach the heavenly Tao realm. Above the heavenly Tao there were other realms. The undecaying realm. He didn't know who could reach such a realm. Dharma saint, I now order you to descend to the lower realm and rely on that Zhang Ziren. Of course, now you have the qualifications to stand shoulder to shoulder with him and obtain the identity of Spell Ancestor. Emperor of Heaven said, Your Majesty, I will not leave the heavenly court even if I die. The Dharma saint was shocked. He hurriedly expressed his loyalty. This is my plan. Emperor of Heaven waved his hand. With the changes in the human realm, the original plan won't work. That Zhang Ziren has already become destiny. The child of destiny that I appointed might not be able to defeat this person and destroy his dynasty. After you become the Spell Ancestor, you will collapse this dynasty. So that's how it is. The Dharma saint knew the Emperor of Heaven's plan. However, if this subject pretends to betray the heavenly court and spreads out, I'm afraid that it will cause a huge blow to the heavenly court. Those demons, gods, immortals, demons, and even underworld will become restless. It's fine. The celestial Dharch said, I have my own arrangements. Go, bring everyone from the reform department with you, got it? Yes. The Dharma saint kowtowed and left. Once the Dharma saint left, there was no one else in the hall. Only the Emperor of Heaven was left. However, at this time, another person appeared in front of the Emperor of Heaven. It was the fourth Gu Huasha, the current Nihility ancestor. How have you been? The Emperor of Heaven was not surprised to see the fourth Gu Huasha. The two seemed to be acquaintances. Your path of Nihility ancestor has finally been cultivated? Of course I have. Gu Huasha looked at the Emperor of Heaven as if he was looking at a clone of himself. You seem to have improved quite a bit. We still need to complete the last step. Then, we can do something that no one has been able to do since ancient times, not even that Gu Taxian, the Emperor of Heaven said. Can your current path of Nihility ancestor contend against Gu Chensha? Not yet. Gu Chensha's strength is above mine. I haven't reached his level yet. The fourth Gu Huasha said. Moreover, he clearly knows what kind of existences I and the Emperor of Heaven are. However, he hasn't made a move yet. We all know that he wants to use us to deal with the moment that terrible existence is born. It's still unknown who will win. Whoever can refine that terrible thing will be able to control the situation. This is also our only chance to defeat Gu Chensha. Who can truly reach the realm above the immortal realm depends on the means. We have no secrets in front of Gu Chensha, and Gu Chensha has no secrets in front of us. The Emperor of Heaven said. Next, let's carry out the plan. The human world has been transformed by Gu Chensha. It's actually more suitable for our plan. The heavenly court seems to be weakened under your plan. But in fact, your control over the human world has increased. You have a great control over the fate energy of the human world. The fourth Gu Huasha said. However, the two of us have the same origin. In the future, we will definitely fuse together to reach the highest realm. At that time, will you give up on yourself? Chapter 985. Bestow Chapter 982. Bestow Chapter 982. Bestow. Looks like you're very confident. This is a good thing. The fourth Gu Huasha nodded. He wasn't worried at all, and with a flash, he left the heavenly court. Only the Emperor of Heaven was left in the great hall of the heavenly court. Gu Taxian, you're really powerful. Not only did you create Gu Chensha, you even seeped your will into my consciousness, causing me to split apart, giving birth to Gu Huasha. The Emperor of Heaven spoke with a faint voice. However, this is also where the benefits lie. If it wasn't for Gu Huasha, I wouldn't have been able to cultivate the Dragonless Heart Sutra. It all depends on the moment when the two of us fuse, whose will be the master. If the Heavenly Tao and Gu Taxian fuse, then Gu Huasha and I will also fuse. The entire heavenly court, under the control of the Emperor of Heaven, suddenly went into hiding. At this time, many powerhouses in the human realm suddenly discovered that a certain great existence that hung in the sky day and night seemed to have disappeared. Does the Emperor of Heaven have another plan? Gu Chernsha, who was in the human realm, slowly retracted his spirit force. He injected his spirit force into the human realm, causing the entire human realm to expand several times, giving birth to many fortuitous encounters, as well as many people with great talent. But even so, his spirit force wasn't consumed at all, it was still boundless. This was because when the Dragonless Heart Sutra reached his level, it had already surpassed the law of energy conservation. On his body, there was no such thing as how much he created would be consumed. This was the highest level of the Dragonless Heart Sutra. The entire human realm, and even the entire world, to him, was nothing more than the imagination in the depths of his heart. Therefore, the countless fortuitous encounters he created were nothing more than the imagination in the depths of his heart. This kind of realm wasn't something that any existence could understand. Even the Emperor of Heaven couldn't understand the birth of this kind of change. So, Gu Chernsha left the human realm and returned to the eternal realm. At this time, Zhuge Ye and the others were bitterly cultivating in the everlasting world, comprehending the profoundness of the everlasting realm. The moment Gu Chernsha descended upon the eternal realm underwent some earth-shattering changes. The space inside expanded infinitely, and the immortal power began to spread. I broke through. Zhuge Ye received the help of this power. Heaven realm, this is it. After the immortal power in his body increased by a few levels, it boiled, and actually opened up a small heaven realm in his body. This heaven realm could not compare to the real heaven realm, but it continued to expand, and its power slowly accumulated. The heaven origin power in his body had already disappeared, replaced by the heaven realm power. Even a trace of the power of the heaven realm could completely crush the power of sky origin. That year, it was a trace of the heaven realm's willpower that pulled Gu Chernsha into another world. That world didn't have Gu Taxian, and Wenhong was the son of heaven. If it wasn't for Gu Chernsha comprehending the God realm at the crucial moment, he might have been lost in the heaven realm's willpower. From this, it could be seen how tyrannical the heaven realm was. I've also advanced. Wenhong released all the power in his body, and waves of heaven realm power were born in his body. Lu Baiwe looked at these people with a smile, because she had already advanced to the heaven realm. After refining the Empress of Heaven and Regal Propria Golden Medallion in her body, and then comprehending the Dragonless Heart Sutra, her realm was even higher than the Hong Ling Sand. Now, in the entire eternal realm, other than Gu Chernsha and Gu Huasha, there was Lu Baiwe, Wenhong and Zhuge Ye who had reached the heaven realm. Wenhong himself had a huge amount of fate energy. Originally, he was the master of the human realm, but because he betrayed the heavenly court, he was not the master of the human realm. However, his fate energy was gradually revealed as the heavenly court weakened. Uncle 1. When Gu Chernsha returned to the eternal realm, everyone felt it, and the higher-ups immediately gathered together. You have reached the heaven realm, you can now go to the human realm, establish a country, and fight for fate energy. In the future, when the big collapse happens, it will be very beneficial. Go to the human realm? Wenhong was puzzled for a moment, then he carefully calculated and understood in his heart. Chernsha, the human realm has expanded once again after your injection, and some of the originally destined opportunities have become completely chaotic. In addition, the big calamity is coming, and it is also a big opportunity. I will go to the human realm, gather fate energy, and can even obtain great benefits on the day of the big collapse, and then I will be able to deal with the final doomsday. That's right. Gu Chernsha looked at the endless depths. The day of the collapse is coming. At that time, other than the birth of terrifying things, many inconceivable things will also be born. If these things are obtained by people, then they can go one step further. At that time, many Heaven Realm experts will appear. Looks like the final main battlefield is still in the human realm, but do we need to establish eternal realm sacrifices in the human realm now? Do we still need sacrifices for our eternal realm? Zhuge asked. The eternal realm no longer needs sacrifices. You guys go to the human realm, establish your own beliefs and sacrifices, enrich your own countries and the heaven realm in your body. Gu Chernsha waved his hand. I also don't need sacrifices, and I don't need to extract immortality from the sacrifices of all living beings. Chernsha, you have already reached this realm? Lu Baiwe said in surprise. That's right, the fourth achieved nihility ancestor in the human realm, but he did not contact us, as if he disappeared. What is his plan? I can't understand it at all. The fourth has the thoughts of the fourth. In fact, the relationship between him and the Emperor of Heaven is very subtle. It can be said that they come from the same source, but have two different personalities. Gu Chernsha said. However, they are connected to each other. If they reach the highest realm, then they can give birth to the strongest power. Even I have some trouble dealing with him. Of course, it is just trouble. Right now, between the heaven and earth, Chernsha, are you considered the absolute number one? No one is your opponent? Lu Baiwe asked. That's right, apart from the birth of that terrible thing, there is indeed no one who is my opponent. However, for me, ruling the heaven and earth no longer has any meaning. The prosperity of all living beings is of some help to me in dealing with that terrible thing. Gu Chernsha said. Originally, spreading the Dragonless Heart Sutra and letting all living beings become Dragonless Heart Sutra practitioners was beneficial to me, but now it is gradually becoming useless. The karma of all living beings is completely separated from me. The fate of all living beings is also not blessed on my body. However, because of this, I have separated from all living beings. This is actually not a good thing. It is not beneficial to my cultivation. Therefore, I want to find the karma of all living beings and bless my body. Isn't that the same as spinning a cocoon around yourself? Lu Baiwe was puzzled no matter how she thought about it. She did not understand how Gu Chernsha was going to cultivate. In fact, when she reached her own realm, cultivation was also very confusing. She did not know how to proceed and could not improve at all. She could not find the path to advance. In her previous cultivation, she only needed to comprehend the realm and refine the everlasting. However, she knew that her current cultivation was something that she had no experience with in the past. No one had reached this realm before. Everything could only be explored by oneself. If you don't spin a cocoon around yourself, how can you break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly? Gu Chernsha said. However, as for how to raise my cultivation realm, I can only continue to fumble and experiment. I still feel that after separating from all living beings, I should start from all living beings again, peeling the silk from the cocoon. However, I could only find some clues. This time around, I infused my spirit force into the human world, causing it to expand. After that, countless living beings obtained benefits from me and obtained the treasures I created. Their strength improved, regardless of whether they believe in my Dragonless Heart Sutra or not. They all obtained a great deal of fate with me. Although I didn't obtain their worship, I felt that when I activated my spirit force, my cultivation realm seemed to have increased a little. Therefore, after reaching my current realm, giving is more than plundering. In the future, my cultivation should focus on giving to all living beings. Naturally, how to give fortuitous encounters to all living beings without tainting their fate. This is something that even the heavenly Tao is unable to do. The heavenly Tao realm is to give many things to all living beings. Everything we cultivate, from the initial food and alchemy, to the spiritual qi, to the chaos elemental energy, and even the worship of all living beings, are all given by the heavenly Tao. However, the heavenly Tao has also been tainted by many karma, causing it to be in a state of collapse. This isn't a small matter. I have already reached the heavenly Tao realm. By infusing my spirit force into the human world, it is equivalent to me carrying out the heavenly Tao. Right now, the heavenly Tao has already lost all of its abilities. In fact, it has even lost the ability to nurture all living beings. As for me, I am already the new heavenly Tao. However, the old heavenly Tao cannot escape the fate of collapse. Since I am carrying out the new heavenly Tao, I'm afraid that I will not be able to escape the fate of collapse in the future. Therefore, I am thinking of a solution. These words contain extremely profound principles of cultivation. Wen Hong nodded his head repeatedly. Also, Gu Chensha said to Zhuge Ye, those who have been crippled, such as Fa Wuxian and the Immortal Lord, have all become ordinary humans. These people can also be placed in the human world. They still have fate energy on them. As the human world changes, they can also obtain countless fortuitous encounters and have many opportunities in the future. To think that these people would actually have a day where they can make a name for themselves. Zhuge Ye sighed. However, I am looking forward to seeing to what extent can these ordinary humans who have been crippled of their cultivation grow to. If these people are given freedom, they will definitely harbor resentment towards me. However, they will still be able to obtain the fortuitous encounters that I created. I also want to see to what extent can they burn their fate energy under the stimulation of their hatred. Gu Chensha nodded. I will give them countless opportunities. It will depend on whether they can grasp them or not. I won't kill them, but if they don't choose their own path well, they will truly be annihilated in the great calamity. Chapter 986. Jumping off a cliff. Chapter 983. Jumping off a cliff in the center of everlasting world, which used to be Xin Province, now Yongzhou. Within a small courtyard, Fa Wuxian was still an ordinary person. Ever since his cultivation base was knocked down by Gu Chensha, he had never accepted it. His heart was filled with hatred and curses. Even though he had the opportunity to cultivate, because he did not want to cultivate the Dragonless Heart Sutra, he was unable to improve at all. With him were Jin Heavenly King Chu Feng, Celestial Master, and the others. Luckily, Everlasting World was now extremely safe. They could live on, grow old, and die. Dying in Everlasting World didn't mean entering the cycle of reincarnation. One would just turn to dust and blend into the world, like withered leaves falling into the soil and becoming a part of it. The changes in the human realm are extremely great. I've heard that many people have obtained fortuitous encounters. If we can escape from eternity and enter the human realm, we'll have a chance to make a comeback, said the Heavenly King of Jin, Chu Feng. That's right, we need to escape from this damned eternal world and find an opportunity in the human world. I must cultivate a peerless divine technique again and destroy the eternal world. I will make Gu Chensha beg for death. The hatred in Fa Wuxian's heart grew stronger and stronger. Everyone, we have no way to go to the human world. Celestial Master said, we are too weak. Even a Tao realm person can deal with us. To go to the human world, we have to cross time and space. We need to be at least God realm. The good thing is that the everlasting realm doesn't stop people from going to the mortal world. In these years, many experts from the everlasting realm have gone to the mortal world. Although some have fallen, there are also some who truly stood out and became tyrannical characters. I heard that the Hongling Shah who came out from the everlasting realm has already become a Taofather, an existence comparable to the celestial emperor. Heavenly King of the Gate of Jin said. We can be ancestors too. Fa Wuxian said, damn it, I have to find a way to go to the human world and leave everlasting world. Rumble. At this moment, everlasting world suddenly changed. Waves of energy caused the eternal world to expand, and the eternal world's energy also became abundant. Suddenly, another person appeared in front of Fa Wuxian and the others. This person was dressed in black and wore a black mask. He stared at these people and said, Everyone, do you want to leave the everlasting world and go to the human world? Who are you? Fa Wuxian said fiercely. No matter who I am, you only need to know that I am the enemy of eternal world, I am the enemy of Guchensha. The black-clothed man said, I came here to take you to the mortal realm to search for your own fortune and karmic luck. All of you possess great karmic luck. After entering the mortal realm, I'm sure I'll be able to obtain fortuitous encounters and cultivate once again to become one of the strongest experts. In the future, I'll be able to occupy a place in the vast world. If you can save me from this abyss of suffering, I will definitely follow your lead. Fa Wuxian was excited. That's good. I took advantage of the change in the eternal realm to infiltrate it. This is because Gu Chensha is transforming the eternal world. He won't be able to detect me for the time being. The black-clothed man said, If it wasn't for this opportunity, I wouldn't have been able to infiltrate and save you. All right, no more words. Follow me. After entering the human world, you'll be able to soar freely in the vast sky and swim freely in the vast sea. We'll listen to you. Fa Wuxian and the others knew that this was a good opportunity. Even if the black-clothed man wanted to kill them, it would be better than slowly withering away in the eternal world. All right, let's go. The black-clothed man waved his sleeves. Suddenly, a wave of power enveloped everyone. Their bodies flew up and left the eternal world. In the next moment, they arrived in the human world. You can open your eyes now. After a while, the black-clothed masked man waved his sleeve, and all the people inside came out. At this time, everyone saw that they were already in the human world. They were on top of a high cliff, and the bottom of the cliff seemed to be bottomless. It was pitch black, and there were faint sounds of wind and thunder shaking and roaring. What is this place? Fa Wuxian asked. This is the human world, a place called the Treasure-Snatching Rock. According to legend, as long as you jump down, you can get all kinds of magic weapons according to your fate. The black-clothed man said, however, if you are not fated to jump down, you are very likely to die. This is a wonderful place in the human world. Some time ago, the human world changed violently. In many places in the human world, there are treasure-snatching rocks like this. Wave after wave of people jump off the cliff in an attempt to get a miracle. Now, are you willing to try? However, I can tell you that those who don't have a fortuitous encounter will be buried in there. Basically, 1 in 10,000 people will have a fortuitous encounter. Of course, their fortuitous encounters also vary. Now in the human world, jumping off the cliff has become the norm. Some teenagers will jump off the cliff when they are unhappy. Many teenagers who jump off the cliff are likely to get a miracle. Now the atmosphere in the human world is like this? Fa Wuxian's expression was a little strange. Who created these treasure-snatching rocks? What is the most powerful magic weapon that has come out now? As far as I know, the most powerful magic weapon in the human world that has a miracle is a system called the Karma Merit System. This system can accumulate karma and the power of merit, and then exchange for anything from the system. It is even more powerful than the god system of the prehistoric civilization. The black-clothed man said, "Now, the person who got the karma merit system has established a huge dynasty called the Tang Empire. Then, the person who ranked second got a miracle, which is a bell. This person established a dynasty called the Great Han Dynasty. In addition, there are many magic weapons and many empires. Now the human world is in complete chaos. The Son of Heaven's empire chosen by the Emperor Heaven is called the Qi country. But now it seems that it has no advantage. Well, we must be people with great luck." Fa Wuxian was the first to nod. "I'd rather die than live the previous life." Bang! While they were talking, Fa Wuxian fell down. He jumped down on his own. His momentum was resolute, as if he would never come back. The people next to him saw him jump down, but they didn't dare to move. They were waiting for him to come back up, or for the news of his death. After a day and a night, Fa Wuxian suddenly appeared. Just like that, Fa Wuxian stood in the air. Behind him, rings of light appeared. Within the rings of light, there were countless suns, moons, and stars, as well as the shape of a world dragon. Then, the rings of light expanded, transforming into a set of clothes. This robe had unparalleled power and dominance. Ha ha ha, I really had a miracle. I fell into a spacetime maze. Just as I was about to die, a precious robe suddenly flew over and enveloped me. This robe contains endless mysteries, including the mysteries of cultivation methods and Daos. This robe is called the Immortal Battle Robe. It contains the power of immortality, and its quality is the 7th level of true immortality. Fa Wuxian's aura fluctuated, as if it was endless. Very good. This treasure is so powerful that it's almost comparable to the divine central continent of yesteryear. In fact, it's even stronger. But Fa Wuxian, it seems that your good fortune isn't limited to just this. You'll have even more in the future. That's right, Fa Wuxian said. I feel like my destiny hasn't run out yet. I'll still have a lot of good fortune to come across. Haha, all of you can jump down, and you will definitely obtain countless benefits. Recovering your strength is a matter of an instant. For example, you, Immortal Master. Back then, your strength was only at the Heavenly Longevity Realm, but now there are Heavenly Longevity Realm experts everywhere. If you jump down, you'll easily reach the Heaven Primal Realm. Is that so? The Immortal Lord said. So you're saying that not only will we recover our strength in the blink of an eye, but we'll also be able to break through bottlenecks we couldn't before. Of course, Fa Wuxian said. Hurry up and go down. We're all very lucky. We won't die. We'll just have some good fortune. I don't believe we'll die either. Immortal Lord, Heavenly King of Jin, Chu Feng, and the others closed their eyes and jumped down. In the blink of an eye, they all disappeared into the turbulence below. After a long time, these people actually all floated up, all of them obtaining great fortuitous encounters. Ha ha ha, we really do have great fortunes. Look at me, I've obtained a door. A door appeared behind Heavenly King of Jin, Chu Feng. It was even larger than the Your Wild's Dragon Gate, and had a stronger aura. The deathless energy within it was actually at the 6th level, the everlasting deathless realm. Although it was a bit weaker than Fa Wuxian's level, it was still many times stronger than when he was at his peak. In the blink of an eye, he had been reborn. The others also appeared here one after another. Each of them had a fortuitous encounter. Ha ha ha, good good. Since that's the case, follow me, the masked man said. I'll be relying on you to do many things. Ha ha, I've obtained good fortune, enough to dominate the world. Why should I listen to your fate? Fa Wuxian laughed maniacally. Who are you? Do you want to deal with us? Fa Wuxian, it's true that you've obtained good fortune, but don't be so arrogant in front of me. All of a sudden, the black-masked man unleashed a burst of power. Terrifying power erupted from behind him, condensing into a mutated essence. Variant origin source. Everyone was suppressed by this mutated source. Then, the masked man in black revealed his true appearance. It was Zhang Yiren, the son of Zhang Ziren. He had been formed by Gu Chencha's sealing of the ancient Tao Immortal's variant origin source and his terrifying will. Zhang Yiren's cultivation base was gradually being developed. Chapter 987. How can you be so strong? Fa Wuxian's face was full of shock. Your power seems to be comparable to that of the Emperor of Heaven. Life and death, creation, all things as Tao. It's very simple. Zhang Yiren said, actually, my strength is related to Gu Chensha. Back then, Gu Chensha sealed Gu Daoxian, condensed all of his source energy into a ball, and then secretly injected it into the body of a fetus, vainly hoping that the fetus would become his pawn. But he didn't expect that. After the fetus grew up, it had a fortuitous encounter, and by coincidence, it destroyed Gu Daoxian's will, fused with its own will, and became independent. In the future, I will definitely let Gu Chensha know how powerful I am. If he wants to control my life, he must pay the price. What? Fa Wuxian said, you are also being controlled by Gu Chensha. It's not just me, you are being controlled by Gu Chensha as well. Where did the fortuitous encounters you have come from? They were created by Gu Chensha, and Gu Chensha's strength is far beyond our estimation. Zhang Yiren said, however, if he wants to control us, we can also break away from his control, and instead use the fortuitous encounters he created to make him suffer the consequences of his actions. So many fortuitous encounters were created by Gu Chensha alone? Fa Wuxian didn't dare to believe it. If that's the case, then how strong is he? Is he stronger than the heavenly Tao? Indeed, he is stronger than the heavenly Tao. Zhang Yiren said, do you still remember the Dragon Gate of Chaos, the primordial tree, the heaven realm, the throne of the Emperor of Heaven, the heavenly sacrifice talisman, and all these treasures were created by the heavenly Tao. Now that Gu Chencha's strength has surpassed the heavenly Tao, what's so strange about those treasures? If that's the case, isn't it impossible for us to take revenge on him? Fa Wuxian asked. Not necessarily. When the Tao of Heaven and Gu Taxian crumble, someone will be born who surpasses him. If we can capture that person, we can kill Gu Chensha in one fell swoop. At the same time, we'll be able to enjoy deathlessness. A ruthless look appeared on Zhang Yiren's face. This look was so ferocious that it made everyone shudder. It was a feeling that seemed to want to destroy everything in the world, annihilate the ages, annihilate everything, and shatter everything. It was icy cold and didn't have the slightest bit of human feelings, and it was even to the extent that it didn't have the feelings of all things in the world. It didn't even have the feelings of the heaven Tao. This Zhang Yiren is so scary. The immortal master thought to himself, I'm afraid this person isn't as simple as he seems. He didn't just activate the ancient Tao Immortal's mutated origin. The ancient Tao Immortals doesn't have such a will. The current immortal master had a fortuitous encounter. Not only did he completely recover his heavenly longevity realm cultivation, he even broke through to the heaven origin realm. She was a person with great fortune and great opportunities. As long as she recovered her strength, she would naturally be able to deduce a lot of information. Otherwise, how could she be worthy of being chosen by Gu Taxian? She even had a daughter with Gu Taxian, Gu Huansha. If that's the case, we're willing to serve under you. The original heavenly king of Jin, Chu Feng, said, now that the heavenly court has a new heavenly king of Jin, I'm just an abandoned chess piece. The Emperor of Heaven has never thought of saving me. I heard that even the Dharma saint has betrayed the heavenly court and merged with your human dynasty, becoming the spell ancestor. In this way, the human dynasty's strength has actually completely surpassed the heavenly court. The only expert left in the heavenly court is the Emperor of Heaven. As the saying goes, a single tree cannot support a tree. But the human dynasty lacks true experts. A person who was originally demoted by Gu Qinsha said, "The current human ancestor probably can't contend against the Emperor of Heaven. The human ancestor can't contend against him, but the nihility ancestor can." Zhang Yiren said, "The nihility ancestor Gu Huasha's strength is actually not below Gu Qinsha's. Even if he's slightly weaker, it's not too far off. It's enough to contend against the Emperor of Heaven, preventing the Emperor of Heaven from descending to destroy the human dynasty with his strongest divine ability. The human dynasty's strength is starting to mature. The next step is to unify the human realm, devour the heavenly court, and devour the eternal realm. In this way, in the process, I'm afraid we can obtain a lot of benefit." Fa Wuxian was now full of ambition. He was ready to make a comeback. "That's why I need everyone's help. Right now, in our human dynasty, I'm the crown prince. Although my position is second only to the emperor, in reality, it's far from that." Zhang Ziren said, "Right now, the power in the human dynasty is chaotic. Each of them has their own mountain. Those who are on equal footing with Father Emperor are the Spell Ancestor, the Taoist Ancestor, the Ancestor of Heaven, and the Otherworldly Ancestor. They're all managing their own forces. Fortunately, the Nihility Ancestor isn't managing them. He's also nowhere to be seen. He's only influencing the situation in the dark. But it's precisely because of this that it's the most terrifying. So, although my strength is tyrannical, I also need everyone's help to form a party with me so that I can stabilize my position in the human dynasty. At this point, we'll definitely attach ourselves to His Highness the Crown Prince." Fa Wuxian said, "Help His Highness the Crown Prince annihilate the dissidents and seize power. Right now, there are countless empires in the human realm, countless magnates, and countless powerful magic treasures. Of course, we have to join forces to eradicate these existences that don't obey our orders. At the same time, we'll plunder their providence and magic treasures. That way, we can all advance to the heavenly realm." At this moment, Fa Wuxian had obtained a fortuitous encounter and instantly reached the divine origin realm. Of course, he still had to properly consolidate his cultivation. Using his divine origin realm cultivation, he made a slight deduction and saw that the human realm was filled with opportunities and earth-shattering magnates. Compared to the divine central continent and the heavenly realm of the past, the current human realm was a true paradise. Back then, the divine central continent and the human realm had indeed experienced an explosion of fortuitous encounters. But compared to the current human realm, it was like comparing a small puddle to a vast ocean. "I'll devour everything and obtain my own providence. Gu Qinsha, you abolished me but didn't kill me. That's your biggest mistake. Everyone has a chance. Even salted fish has a chance to turn things around, let alone me." Fa Wuxian swore in his heart. "Alright, everyone, you're all people who were demoted by Gu Qinsha. Now that I've rescued you, it's only natural that you'll obtain great fortuitous encounters. Although these fortuitous encounters were created by Gu Qinsha, by allowing you to obtain them, Gu Qinsha lacks you. Let's go. We'll have many more opportunities in the future." The group was led away by Zhang Yiren. In the Lord's court, inside the Taoist ancestor's palace, Hong Lingsha was talking to someone. These people were the spell ancestor Dharma Saint, the ancestor of heaven Wu Dankong, and even the otherworldly ancestor Lu Chansha. Zhang Ziren had already recruited the otherworldly realm and conferred the title of the strongest among them, Lu Chansha, as the otherworldly ancestor. "Dharma Saint, you've actually betrayed the heavenly court. That's unbelievable," Taoist ancestor Hong Lingsha said. "You've brought everyone from the reform department here. Do you want to seize the throne? Occupy the center?" "I don't have that intention. The main characters of the human realm are humans. Zhang Ziren is called the human ancestor and has already obtained providence. I can't seize it, or I'll definitely suffer a backlash. However, I've obtained some information. In the future, there will be more ancestors appearing one after another. For example, the Buddha. Spell ancestor Dharma Saint said. What? The Buddha? Ancestor of heaven Wu Dankong frowned. That's right. We've all cultivated to the heaven realm, so we can be called ancestors. This also means that we all have a supreme providence. Dharma Saint said, but we can directly devour the other ancestors and combine them. Do you all want to do this with me? What other ancestors will appear in the future? Taoist ancestor Hong Ling Sha suddenly felt that the Dharma Saint in front of him was a bit unfathomable. How can I see through this with my cultivation? Dharma Saint didn't continue. No matter what, there will be many ancestors appearing in the future. It won't benefit us at all. So we need to nip this matter in the bud. While they were talking, Dharma Saint suddenly looked over. The East Palace's providence has increased greatly. What's going on? The East Palace was where the Crown Prince lived. It was also where Zhang Yiren was. This Crown Prince is not simple. His potential is much greater than ours. Ancestor of Heaven Wu Dankong said, I can see that his ambition is not small. He has already expressed his intention to eliminate us. After all, although Zhang Ziren is in power, we are all ancestors. We are on the same level as Zhang Ziren. This leads to a division of power. Zhang Yiren naturally wants to get rid of us and share our providence. This is the most obvious. This little brat, how can we allow him to behave atrociously? Dharma Saint laughed coldly. He suddenly looked at alien ancestor Lu Chansha. Alien ancestor, why aren't you saying anything? Your world was created by Gu Chansha. After the human realm changed, you used this opportunity to obtain sacrificial power to enrich your world. Now, you have obtained the identity of an alien ancestor and have finally cultivated to the heaven realm. What do you think about this? Zhang Yiren isn't anything to be afraid of. However, ancestor of law, you said that all of us are neck and neck with each other. I don't think that's entirely true. Right now, it's obvious that Ancestor Wu is the #1 ancestor. He's above all of us. Even in the hearts of all living beings, Ancestor Wu is the strongest, the greatest ancestor. Alien ancestor Lu Chansha said, therefore, I feel that we must get rid of this situation. Otherwise, even if we continue to operate, we will only be subservient to others. What is the difference between being an official under the Emperor of Heaven? What you said makes sense. This is the most important thing. Wu Dankong said, now there is nothing in the world that can restrict us. If we belong to the heavenly court, the Emperor of Heaven has the power to kill us. As the ancestors of the human dynasty, we are the true supreme ancestors. However, this nihility ancestor Gu Huasha is indeed oppressing us. If we don't get rid of this, everything will be empty talk. Then what should we do? We can't even find the nihility ancestor Gu Huasha now. Moreover, we can't ask Zhang Ziren to cancel the sacrificial ceremony for the nihility ancestor, right? Destroy the nihility ancestor tablet? Dharma Saint's eyes flashed with killing intent. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.